Welcome, everybody, to another Friday, our 189th episode of Heavy Metallurgy. I hope you're all doing well. Thank you for joining us. I just think I'll just put this one comment right here up. I'm just going to let that sit here because that's a really good, that's a good one to say what we're getting into tonight. But, Alan, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a long, busy week, but got some fun family stuff for the weekend. We're all into the holiday vibe, and work should settle down a little bit now between here and the end of the year. So yeah, hoping I can have some fun time to spend with catching up on some music too. Marty, how are you doing?
Doing all right. Got work kind of caught up. I got mail order caught up for the first time in months.
Nice.
So anybody that's been waiting on shit, it's finally coming, and I'm sorry. All I can say. Shirts, I'm probably gonna have a long cold spell now with printing, but hey, it's all good. We're going to take a little downtime and recharge, listen to some music, work on some heavy metallurgy stuff, and hang out with all you fine folks in the chat.
Yep, but lots of folks already streaming in. Nice to see Tim, Frosty, Randy, Sunday, William, Metal Overkill. Lots of folks. Randy's back in tonight. Good to see you again, Randy. Hope everyone else has had a good week and is having fun this holiday season as well.
Yeah. But before we bring our guest out, we've got the weekly roundup of new releases that dropped today, and this is just an excerpt of them, and I did not get images up, so you're just going to have to hear me ramble on and mispronounce things. So, here we go. What is today? The 13th of December, 2024. We've got At the Altar of the Horned God, Elements EP on iVoidhanger. Axis of Perdition, Apertures on Apocalyptic Witchcraft. Blue Oyster Cult 50th Anniversary Live, Third Night Frontiers. 50 freaking years. That is craziness. Cheers. Electric Wizard, Black Magic Rituals and Perversions, Volume 1 on Spine Farm. Halloween, live at Budokan, Reigning Phoenix. Illusion Force, Helfana on Frontiers. In We Fall, Inner Self on Eclipse. Magic Kingdom, Blaze of Rage on Massacre. Misartham, Anthropic Bias / Departure on Avant-Garde. Sounds like it's a couple EPs sandwiched together. Mort Grinning, Fesornus Tid on Season of Mist. Ponte del Diavolo, Trey, the EP collection, Time to Kill. Storis, Live and Live and Let Live. Dang it. Live and Let Live or Live and Let Live. I don't know. Re-release Frontiers. Wings of Steel. Live in France. RFL. That's it. So, yeah, I'm looking pretty excited to get my copy of Live at Budokan. Ordered it from Germany, so we'll see how long that takes to get here. Yep. But anyway.
All right. We have some more business to take care of.
Oh, that's right. Right.
That's right. We have 2 copies of the new issue of Deserts of Hex to give away. So, as I said last week, all you had to do to enter was leave a comment in last week's live stream video from Friday night telling us what your favorite album of 2002 was, and we will pick 2 random winners tonight. So, Marty, we've got 42 comments on that video. I need you to pick 2 numbers from 1 to 42, and I will look them up. We'll see who the winners are, and Marty will put the email address up on the screen. We'll get in touch with you in the near future and get you your free zines. But Marty, 2 random numbers between 1 and 42, please.
Let's go with 6.
6?
37.
6 and 37. All right. I will look those up in a bit, and we will track down the people that left those comments. If by random chance one of them is like me or Marty or something, I will just go to the next comment down.
I haven't answered any comments yet, so
yeah, it is probably we're way behind on that kind of stuff. But if by chance it is a heavy metallurgist who is left comment 6 or 37, I will just go to the next comment down until I hit somebody who doesn't contribute content to heavy metallurgy. So good luck, folks, and 2 of you will be hearing from us in the near future, and we'll get you your free issue of Deserts of Hex zine sent out free of charge.
All right. Sounds good. And we have a guest, and he's a fine guest. He's a wonderful human being, and it's good to have him back on again. It has been a minute. Jimmy.
The man literally crawled out of a hole in the ground in the middle of nowhere in the middle of winter to come do this.
Stumbled off a mountain. Yes.
I know, because I watched him do it today. It was really cool.
Cool. I need to catch up. So welcome back, Jimmy. How you doing? What's been going on?
Doing well. Thanks for having me back. It's been a minute, and really glad to see you guys again.
Good to see you.
Mm-hmm.
So what's been going on at Future Ruins that these fine folks have missed out on? Actually, there's a couple of really cool things that have happened. I know he's put up a video today or yesterday, I don't remember, but there was a couple cool ones before that. What's been going on?
Yeah, just trying to just always getting more, trying to get better at the hiking style videos. Just always trying to up the production value every time I do something new, and try to learn new things. And yeah, I mean, it's been a pretty good year. I just released one this week. I did a overnight video out in the woods, winter style, and slept out in the very cold. It wasn't actually too bad. I've had worse, but it's about good 20 degrees out there at nights. Got a pretty big raging fire going on for the night to stay warm, and kind of just documented the whole experience. It was a good 10-mile hike getting in there, and got to see a really cool place. Just, as usual, I try to find like kind of more off the beaten path places here in Colorado to do videos with. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, a really cool one. But before that, I actually did something I didn't ever think that I was going to do. And it was funny as I was doing it. I was like, am I really going to freaking do this? And I did it. I shot a Bigfoot episode, which is kind of like, if you're an outdoors man and you do stuff like this, you kind of have to at some point address the subject. And been doing my channel for 4 years. I do, I release a video maybe every 2 or 3 months, something like that. It takes a lot of time and effort to put these things together. But, it was Halloween, and I figured, what, it's time. I may as well go ahead and do it. And so I've got a little bit of experience with the subject. And so I went ahead and decided to do a 2-part series. I wanted to keep it at that because I don't want to turn my channel into some kind of Bigfoot channel or cryptid channel, anything like that. I want to keep it more about the hiking, about the metal. And
probably get more views though.
Yeah, actually it did. It actually did very well. I was really happy with it. It came out good. It's a little bit longer than my usual 30-minute kind of episode. But I went to a place that's kind of a known hotspot for, sightings and things like this. And I've been to the area before and seen some things that kind of, made me question what is this? It definitely has the vibe. I'll tell you that. And maybe that's, what do they call it? Pareidolia, something like that. You already kind of know about it, and then you start to think about it. But I will say that I had been in this area before I had ever even thought about the subject. As I start to get more into hiking outdoors, things like that, I start to, hear stories and kind of got interested. It's a fun subject, I mean, who doesn't like Bigfoot? And so, yeah. But I had spent the night out there before I had even, really considered it, and just felt a vibe to the place that, every now and then I do this stuff a lot, and there are certain places I go to that give me a vibe, of sort of like an unwelcome. And, so, and I had seen what's called, tree breaks, what's known in the sort of Bigfoot world as, one of these things that they do. And I'd seen these things in this area, and it's usually aspen trees. And I see stuff like this in the woods all the time, but these specifically kind of stopped me in my tracks and took a look at it and be like, wow, that's, that looks really deliberate. It doesn't look like it naturally occurred. This is, I'd seen stuff like this before out in that area. So I thought, oh man, when I get out here, I really hope I see some of those, because that's really going to make, and spoiler alert, there's no Bigfoot in the video, unfortunately. So I was able to sort of add, an episode to the pantheon of Bigfoot episodes.
Isn't there another one coming too?
There is another one coming, yes.
Yeah, you mentioned it would be a part 2 sometime.
Yeah, so this one is basically kind of focused on the tree breaks, and I was kind of hoping that people would, maybe get some responses, say, hey, what do you think this is? And nothing really, so it still kind of remains a mystery, but it's a very interesting, I break it all down. I won't go into it too crazy. Go watch the video if you're really interested in it. It's a little bit later in the video. Spent the night out there, which was a little, I would say I was a little on edge in a way. By myself out there.
You're going there for a reason. You psych yourself. That's just a thing. Yeah.
Totally psyching myself out. I did some things to kind of get my mind off of it when the night came. But No issues, nothing happened, but it was, I did manage to find a lot of these interesting tree breaks that more than I figured I would, and they were very. Let's just say I found more than I was expecting to find, and it was very, very mysterious. The second part of the video, and I've talked to Marty about this because I know Marty's big into Bigfoot, but I've not like really, talked about it publicly. But I decided, what the hell, I'll come out with. I actually had an experience, myself and my wife. This is about 10 years ago at this point. And
don't tell it now. Save it for the
video.
video.
I'm not going to tell the story, but if you want to hear, I'm actually going to go back to the area where this happened. And I actually tried to go back there not long after the first video, but the weather was bad, the road. I couldn't actually find the spot where we had our encounter, and so I had to bail on it. I'm gonna have to wait till the spring or possibly the summer, because it's like 20 miles up this dirt road, and I don't think they plow it, so I don't think there's any way that I can get up there
not this
during the
time
winter time. Yeah, no. So but I do plan to go up there. There's actually a pretty high mountain peak in the area, about a 12,000 foot peak that I plan on including in the video that I'm going to hike, and I'm going to go to the spot where we had our encounter and recount what happened there. And hopefully I already have my wife write up, because it's interesting because she was there with me and experienced what I experienced. So if you're interested, I've got that coming soon. I don't want to spoil it, but I think it's a very interesting story. I told it to Marty probably a year or two ago, so he's probably forgotten the details, but
I remember.
Yeah.
That shit excites me. I love it.
Yeah, it should be fun, man. It's a fun subject. I don't really believe I don't. I'm on the fence at this point. I haven't seen one, but what we had happen was very, very interesting, and definitely made me think twice about this. And so yeah, that's coming soon.
Awesome. And someone mentioned it. I'm going to check. We're one subscriber away from 6,000. Everybody, you all rule.
Ooh, nice.
Cheers, everyone. It's been a long haul to get this last 1,000. Trust me, but we're almost there. Yeah.
Hey, Marty, you know what? Jimmy hasn't subscribed.
Nah.
Probably not.
If that was true, then you would have 6 right now. So. Come on, guys. Whoever's out there, just hit the sub button.
Don't be a looky-loo. Go ahead and subscribe. It don't hurt.
It's so easy to subscribe. You just have to hit the button. You don't have to look at it anymore.
It's okay. We're a guilty pleasure. You can subscribe to us.
Right. Well, it's good to have Jimmy back. And Jimmy actually came at us with a list of topics. And
yeah, had a bunch.
And this is the one we thought we haven't really done.
The idea has been batted around, but we've never taken the bait on it before. But now is the time.
Yep, and it's gonna be a fun one. So, when you thought of guilty pleasures, what was on your mind about this one? I think we're all gonna take it a little bit differently.
Samantha Fox.
Yeah, definitely. She's not a guilty pleasure.
It's kind of a hard subject, and I had like a list of stuff just I had thought about in previous when we were talking about. So I've got a little notepad on my phone, topics for HM if I ever go back on or whatever. So that was one of them. But I thought, I figured I don't catch every episode, but I didn't think I had ever seen you guys do this one. So it is kind of a broad subject, and
we just hit 6,000. Hey, sorry, Jimmy. There you go. See, you were brave. You went out and you hit that button. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you to whoever hit the button.
That was record.
Cool. I did it live. That was kind of nice.
Even like your avatar. It's great.
Sorry, Jimmy. Go ahead.
Congrats, guys.
Thanks.
Well deserved. I think this is kind of the type of subject that, I figured maybe it would give you guys an opportunity to pull some stuff maybe you hadn't talked about. Me as well. But I think it's kind of broad. It's like I was thinking like anything obviously non-metal, since this is a metal channel, and we as metalheads are very open-minded and we like lots of different music, not just metal, even though that's probably the majority of it. But I also decided to pull some actual metal titles of things that could be considered guilty pleasure because, maybe there are records by bands that people don't like as much, but maybe some people do like. I know I have a few in here from some very beloved bands that have records that are not considered as such. So I think it kind of can range anywhere in between that. So yeah, I think there's a lot we could do with it.
Right on. Well, go for it. Why don't you get the
All
ball
right.
rolling?
Well, to get us started, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a non-metal one, and then I'm going to pick a metal one. I'm going to go back and forth, at least from my picks, since I wasn't really sure exactly how we were going to structure this. So I think it'll go good like that, and we'll see how you guys do as well. I'm going to go back all the way to the early 70s. I think this is, and I would imagine this would have been discussed on your channel at some point, because I just think most metalheads would dig this record. But Miles Davis's Kind of Blue. And this is the stereo collector edition 2 LP sets that my mom gave me for Christmas. I actually had the single pressing of this, and then I've got the expanded edition now. Miles Davis, obviously jazz, and this, Miles Davis did a lot of different style of jazz throughout his career. I think this is what he's most well known for, and it's just an amazing record that, if you're just into music at all, you should absolutely check this album out. And there's just if you're into jazz, I'm not extremely well versed in speaking about jazz, but I can say that, this stuff is just so free form. When you talk about just improvisation, I think this is the record that would probably come up the most talked about in terms of what they did here. This is an absolute heroin record. You can just listen to these guys playing, and you can see the piano player nodding out with a cigarette in his mouth, and them having to nod him and wake him up to continue the song. You can kind of feel that, but there's just it's all feeling in this album, and very, very just chill music.
Hey, Sheldon, thank you so much.
Listening, for reading, things like that. But I've got a cache of records that I have upstairs for when we have, family over, parents and stuff like that, and I want to spin some vinyl. And obviously, it's not going to be some metal or anything like that. I've got Steely Dan records and shit like that. So this is one that comes off pretty often. If we're having a Thanksgiving dinner or something like that, I can put Kind of Blue on. But fantastic record. It should be in every metalhead's collection, for sure. And it's pretty easy to find these days because they've repressed the hell out of it. But yeah, excellent jazz record.
So would you say that one over Bitches Brew? I hear everybody talk about that one too. Uh-oh. Jimmy's crashing and burning. Oh, there you are. You back? Did you hear that, Jimmy?
Yeah, something happened with my audio here, guys.
No worries. We'll get it figured out.
All right, Alan.
All right. So yeah, this was a fun idea for a topic, but then it was a little hard to figure out what directions to go in with it. Because on the one hand, I don't really feel that guilty for anything I listen to.
Me either. Yeah.
Which I was like, okay, so how do we do that then? But technically, guilty pleasures. You're thinking of things like stuff that you like, but you'll acknowledge that it's not exactly top shelf material. We're often talking maybe second and third tier kind of bands that you just for whatever reason kind of click with. I've picked some non-metal stuff. I've picked some metal stuff. Like Jimmy, I kind of was thinking along the lines of what are some metal albums that I like that typically don't have that big a following, or that a lot of people may not be into. But the first one should be kind of obvious, because when you're thinking guilty, it means you've been a little naughty, maybe a little naughty.
I knew it.
No. We're actually going to bypass that because that's too easy. We've done the danger thing before.
Danger. Wow.
So no, we will bypass that one. Actually, what we'll go with is this band. Some folks asked earlier about the Randy shirt. I thought about the Randy shirt for tonight, but then I was like, I want to talk this band, Diplodocus. This is a dungeon synth act, which is a genre I know pretty much nothing about. I get what it is. I've checked out some bands, and it's okay, but it's just not the kind of thing I'm really interested in diving deep into at this point in my life. The fact that a big part of it early on was a cassette format genre, and I'm just not into cassettes either. But when this thing came out, for whatever reason, Bandcamp put it up in front of my eyeballs. And I was just like, I don't even know what this is yet, but I know I'm going to buy it because, first off, it's named after a giant dinosaur, which, for those who don't know, I've studied dinosaurs. So yeah, they've already kind of got me hooked there. But the whole gimmick just works. I mean, the cover art is, some of the famous dinosaur artwork. I'm pretty sure it's done by Charles Knight. He did a lot of the kind of classic dinosaur art pieces that you would see in the mid 20th centuries, where they kind of look like, big fat lizard. You see them depicted today, of course. But yeah, this is just lifted straight off one of the Charles Knight murals that I think is on display in the Natural History Museum in New York. And the fact that they decided, their tagline early on was going to be slow and heavy. First, it's a great description for the music. But second, it's also the perfect description for a Diplodocus because it's a big Brontosaurus-style dinosaur where it's like, 90 feet long and weighs tens of metric tons. And so just, I'm just like, check. Shut up and take my money. Absolutely. So yes, this is the only Dungeon Synth album I own. Again, I have nothing against the genre. It's kind of fun, but it's just not something I'm going to really go. I'm not going down that rabbit hole.
Thanks, Randy.
Thank
Beans.
you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Glad you caught us live. Randy's not been able to catch us for a couple of weeks live, but tonight he can. He's excited to be back. We're glad to have him back.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Diplodocus is just too perfect for me. And yes, I even went and I don't buy shirts very often, but this one I had to get because it's funny as hell ripping off the Dark Throne thing.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
the tagline at the bottom, Triassic Hunger, is even more hilarious because Diplodocus didn't live during the Triassic. Diplodocus is a Jurassic Age dinosaur, but it doesn't matter. That actually just makes it even more hilarious because Triassic sounds more like Transylvanian. So I don't blame them. I would have gone with Triassic too. And the fact that it's geologically incorrect just endears them to me all the more. So yeah, not something I'm going to listen to very often. Not a genre I'm looking to explore, but Diplodocus won me over from day one. Absolutely. So that is my first sort of guilty pleasure. And now, Marty, let's see what's in your naughty bin there, Marty.
Well, yeah, I mean, I really don't feel bad about any of this stuff either. I mean, guilty pleasure. Really, I listen to music by myself most of the time anyway, so I can listen to whatever the hell I want. And if I play something that people think is cheesy or terrible, again, I don't care. But here's an album I'm starting off with that when I got it, I laughed, threw it in the garbage, hated it. But 3 listens in to 1 Second by Paradise Lost, I had to concede the fact that, yeah, this is poppy, gothic goodness, and I'm sold. I'm sold on it. It's just so endlessly catchy. And there's a whole subgenre of this in metal during this era. Amorphis went down this route a bit. Anathema, other bands. Just Cemetery is another one. I don't know. It's just a thing. It really... just the good mixture of catchy, hooky, and dark, gothy, mixed with a little bit of metal. There's not a ton of metal on this record, but there's some. And yeah, I hated it. Took it out of the garbage bin. Started spinning it because I had to review it for Worm Gear and ended up saying, yep, okay. It's too catchy not to like it. It just is. So, yep, that's the first on my guilty pleasure pile. And there's just, as we get into this, there's some stuff that a teenage me would love to kick my ass, my old ass, if my young me knew I liked the stuff now that I like now. So,
yeah,
that's coming.
I do think folks over time have come around on 1 Second a little bit because, yeah, that album was not well received when it came out.
Yeah,
I liked it right away, but I was in a small minority. I think people have gotten more forgiving, and it probably helps that now, they can look back in hindsight and kind of see where Paradise Lost was going over the years with that kind of sound. But yeah, at the time, it was a big shock to the system.
All right, Jimmy, what you got?
All right. Well, this one, and to echo what you guys are saying, I mean, yeah, I don't feel guilty about any of these things. You like what you like, right? But maybe I feel a tad bit guilty about this one. given that I'm on Heavy Metallurgy, and I know the consensus on this band at Heavy Metallurgy. So, but I stand by it, and I love this record. Ghost
For a hot take.
Melora or Meliora. I don't know how
It's the same. It's catchy. Well, I get why people like it.
Okay, so first 3 records I think are gold. I think are stellar. Now they're kind of getting a little more commercial and a little more, obviously mainstream. Personally, I dig the new stuff as well, but I think this band is great because they just write great songs. They write great melodies. They catchy, earwormy. They've got the vibe, sort of. Obviously, I remember the first time I saw these guys play live. I didn't know who they were. It was at, I think it was an Opeth show, and they were the opener, and they came out in their garb, and I thought it was going to be some kind of like black metal shit, and start playing. Sounds like Merciful Fate meets Blue Oyster Cult or something like that. It was kind of, wow, this is different, But this record in particular, I just every single song is just. It's just a classic song, and I don't really care if these guys get huge or whatever. Iron Maiden was playing arenas, after their 3rd or 4th album, I'm sure. So nobody was screaming about them being sellouts or anything like that. Not that anybody is here,
Paul Di'Anno was.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But this is just full of just a lot of fun, catchy tunes, and this one does have the dark kind of vibe to it. But especially when they get to a track like He Is, which is so great because it's kind of like, it sounds like sort of a church song, it's like kind of glorifying God, but it's not God, it's Satan. And a little tongue in cheek, but it's fun and just awesome, like kind of proggy guitar solo kind of stuff going in there, good riffs. And I don't know, I really love the guy's vocal. I just think he I don't know, it just works for me. But it's one of those bands that like my non-metal friends can get into, and we can go see the band and have a good time. But I get why like some people kind of turns them off, but I really love this band. I still dig them. We went and saw them play last year, and every time we see them, like the production on the stage gets bigger and bigger. They're at like 8 musicians at this point, which kind of sounds a bit contrived, but they make it work. They're using everything they've got up there, and the music kind of just keeps expanding in terms of the instrumentation and things like that. But yeah, I don't know. I love these guys. I think they're a lot of fun, and I maybe feel a little guilty, but not really. So
it sounds like a sorry, not sorry kind of moment.
Yeah.
Sorry, but I'm not sorry.
Okay, Alan. Unleash the yacht rock. Oh man.
Yeah, Sunday pointed out, the chat is
very
very buzzy right now, so glad everyone's having fun with the topic already for sure. But yeah, it's a little hard to keep up, but we'll do our best.
You're a talkative bunch of 100 people there. Awesome.
That's good. Yep. We want them talking. All right, next one. I've mentioned this one from time to time, but I think it's been a while, and this definitely fits the category of there's nothing, they're not bad, but they're nothing special, but I just love the album personally. It is a thrash band out of Tennessee, Intruder, and this is their 2nd album called A Higher Form of Killing. Was their first one on Metal Blade, and it came out like I want to say 1990 plus or minus a year, definitely when thrash was oversaturated. I like Intruder, though. They were decent as a thrash band, pretty distinct. The debut album's good. This one's pretty good. But they were very, very easy to get lost in the shuffle. They didn't do anything new. It's not like they were outstanding at any one given thing. So while I like them, I get why they really never made it over the top. A little too late to the scene, and just, too many thrash bands, too similar. They were one in a very, very large pack at that point. But this is, for all that, a very solid thrash album. It leans maybe a little bit towards the sort of traditional power metal side of thrash. It's not in like, the really extreme death thrash vein. It kind of leans the other direction just a little bit. Band photo there. Then, sort of like chemical warfare thing going on. And just to point out, where's it at here? It's somewhere. They did have an interesting choice of a cover song there on this end of side A. They covered "I'm Not Your Stepping Stone," and they actually thrashify it in a pretty fun way. You know, when you look at that and you read it, it's like that probably does it belong on a thrash album, but their version is actually pretty fun. So they do get a bonus point for that. One piece of personal history with the band. I always liked this quote they had at the top. It's from one of the Nobel laureates in chemistry, commenting on the sort of advent of chemical warfare and such. And I actually used this in an English paper once and managed to stump my English teacher because she could not tell me how I was supposed to give a citation that I found on the back of a record album cover. She's like, I don't know what to do with that. I don't know. she completely, it just kind of broke her in terms of like, it's not from a magazine. It's not a book. It's not a journal. This has never come up in all my decades of teaching. Like, I don't want to be accused of plagiarizing. So, I'm trying to do the right thing here. Yeah, she's like, I'm sitting in her office. She's like holding a J card to the cassette copy of this, scratching her head about like, where did this kid come from? And why would he go away? But if you don't mind, again, a second tier kind of thrash band, very solid. Intruder's Higher Form of Killing is a very fun album.
All right.
There we go. Marty, up to you for number 2.
Well, this is going to be an evening full of, this is an album I'm probably not supposed to like, but I do. And I find myself listening to it whenever I'm in the mood for Metallica. This, more often than not, ends up in the player, surprisingly.
Okay.
I mean, I've heard the first 4 records so many freaking times. It's nice to have something else in the catalog a little bit newer that actually stands up pretty well riff-wise. And, people complain about this record, as they do with all new Metallica records, and rightfully so in a lot of cases. And this is, I think, the biggest problem with this album is it's very long. That's kind of happened to Metallica over the years. I just like a lot of the songs on here. It sounds like older Metallica with a drier production. They're coming out of a bad time for the band. I mean, I say bad as an old Metallica fan because it was crappy rock stuff. And then Saint Anger, their attempt at new metal, whatever. And this is them kind of righting the ship, getting back into what Metallica kind of is. And I don't know, Cyanide, great riffs. The End of the Line. There's just a lot of bluesy riffs on here. There's a lot of good thrash riffs on here. James is singing, which he does have a good voice. I miss yelling young James, but that's never going to happen again. See, Saint Anus. People, Saint Anus. I agree, 100%. But yeah, you're not supposed to like this record, but I think it's a pretty damn good record. And I saw a thing today that Kirk Hammett is 62 years old. I was a little surprised at how old. I was kind of surprised by that. I didn't realize. I figured he might be late 50s, but 62. Wow, I'm kind of surprised. I don't know why that's that. I just read it before the show started, so it's still in my head. Wow, he's older than I thought he was. But yep, Death Magnetic. Right.
The follow-up to that was okay too. There were some decent songs on it. I have still not listened to 72 Seasons. I keep forgetting to check it out. And
it's got 3 good songs and a couple okay. It's too fucking long. It's like all new Metallica. It's too much.
Yeah, that's my initial problem with Death Magnetic, which I'm not real familiar with. But when I've played it, I just remember this damn album just won't end.
Yeah.
The Rick Rubin touch. It's a very dry production. I don't know.
Yeah.
Could have sounded a little more old school to go with the music, but it didn't. It sounds like modern Metallica trying to rekindle their youthful spirit a bit. I don't know. I dig it. I think it's a good record.
Man, they're doing another tour, and they're going to be. They announced 2 nights over here in Denver at the Broncos Stadium, which is actually
Mile High.
Mile High, and I actually got to see Rolling Stones there last summer, which was the only time I've ever been there for a concert. And it's a pretty big stadium, and it was pretty awesome. I was looking at the tickets like Metallica, Suicidal, and Pantera, and I was like, okay, yeah, maybe I wouldn't mind seeing that, just for one last hurrah for these bands. I wouldn't mind seeing Suicidal. And the tickets, man, they're $300 or something like that. I mean, just for like way up in the rafters. I was like, man,
Wow.
how do they get away with charging that much?
Well, their
I mean,
crowd
people pay
is
it.
old and established people and have apparently expendable funds to go to then buy a $80 t-shirt. Or
Yeah.
who knows?
Fucking $150 hoodie. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. But I don't think I'm gonna pay $300 to go see Metallica. So, all right. So this next one is definitely not metal. And I'd be curious to see if anybody recognizes this band at all. This is, I think these guys. Okay, so this guy is an Irish musician, and the band is called Lonely Robot. And this is like, it's basically soft progressive rock. I mean, it's sort of in the vein of, if you're into things like Porcupine Tree or Steven Wilson, I think you would find something to really enjoy on this. Reading the liner notes, basically John Mitchell is the the singer-songwriter. He's main guy for the band. He's usually just hires musicians to fill it out. But basically it says he's played in other bands such as It Bites, Arena, Kino, and Frost, none of which I'm familiar with at all. I don't know if those are progressive bands or whatever. And when I say progressive rock, I mean it's funny how things get labeled prog these days, because it's not really prog. This is just pretty straightforward, like maybe a little bit in the instrumentation, but it's just it's pretty basic in terms of the song structures. But it's just really catchy, melodic. I mean, if you're into melody as I am, if you can hook me with a good melody, I'm usually in, as I've said before. And Lonely Robot really does that. I mean, this is the third part of a trilogy of what he called his astronaut trilogy. So if you look him up, I mean, he's kind of dressed like an astronaut. It's a little hokey, but I don't know, man. The songs just like really, I don't know, they really tug at your heartstrings in terms of the melodies and such. I mean, I don't know. You might go listen to this and be like, dude, this is lame. This is some sad boy rock shit. And maybe it is, but I really, really like it. And again, if you're into things like Steven Wilson, I think Steven Wilson liked this guy so much, he even covered one of his songs on one of his most recent EPs or something like that. Did a really beautiful rendition of one of the Lonely Robot songs. But yeah, if any of that sounds good to you, I mean, I don't see anybody ever really talking about these guys. I have a friend that's like really big into like the 70s prog stuff, and not that this really sounds anything like that, but he was telling me you have to check this out. Started to listen to it. I even thought at first like, this is just some sad boy shit, but as I started to listen to it, it really kind of hooked me. So yeah, Lonely Robot. This one's called Under Stars. This would be the one I would recommend if any of that sounds good to you. Very good stuff.
Hey, Screaming for Metal, thanks so much. Appreciate you. Appreciate that so much.
Thank you, Screaming. Yeah, it's interesting, Jimmy. I don't know that band at all.
It's good stuff. It's good.
Never heard of
I mean, again, you might go check it out and think it's lame, but I don't know. It's, if you like good melodious stuff that kind of just gives you sort of, gives you the feels, this certainly does that. And I know you like Anathema, Alan, so not that it really sounds like Anathema, but it kind of has that feeling like where it's tugging at your heartstrings kind of stuff.
That kind of ballpark. Okay. Yep. That could work then.
All right. Alan.
All right. Next up for me is a band. Been around for a long time. I mean, they've always had a fan base, but they are long past their peak in most people's opinion. And opinions do vary on them. Some people like them a lot. Some people do not care for them. I picked this one because I've always kind of liked them, even in their later phase. I think most of their albums are good. And I also picked this one for Celtic Frosty out there because I'm pretty sure he digs this band as well. It is The Cult. Obviously, they kind of started on more like the goth scene, this Southern death cult. It kind of kept shortening the name until they ended up just at The Cult. And they obviously for a while in the 80s were a fairly big deal as a rock band. They started out had a little more of a psychedelic thing, quickly dropped that and kind of went for a more straightforward rock thing. But yeah, you got into the 90s and like most 80s bands, they started having trouble finding their footing in the sort of post-grunge landscape. Some of those albums aren't as strong. The band famously had a lot of infighting, egos got a little too big, drugs got a little too plentiful, et cetera, et cetera. But they've always kind of managed to pull things back together with different lineups and, put out albums that are, consistently decent. I pulled this one, Beyond Good and Evil, just because it's a good example of one from the early 2000s. That's a very, very good album. It's actually one of their heaviest albums ever. Probably definitely the heaviest, except perhaps Sonic Temple. This album gets no attention. Nobody was paying any mind to the cult by this point in their career. But it's a very good album, as are a lot of the others from this time. Not all of them. There's one or two around this period that are a bit, on the lame side. The album that came out a couple of years ago, like most stuff, kind of divisive. Some folks really liked Under the Midnight Sun. Some people thought it was too boring. Some people couldn't give a shit less that there was another cult album out, period. But I've always liked Ian Ashbury's voice. She's got a very distinctive sound. I've always kind of liked, the novelty with him has always been a little bit working in some of the, like the Native American type, imagery and stuff, which actually works fine for them. He's always had a genuine interest in that. It was not just a cheap gimmick. One thing that's always held him back a little bit, their lyrics are always just a total mess. It's just, do not sit down and try to read a lyric sheet for a cult album. You will feel dumber by the time you get to the end of it. But the music is good. The guitars, of course, are always great. The vocals are always strong. And they just, they have a knack for writing pretty good songs, even though they've changed styles a bit over time, which is another criticism of the band. Some people feel like they're always trying to catch up with the popular trend. But we could say the same thing about Judas Priest. We could say the same thing about Ozzy Osbourne. Be careful where you throw that stone if you're standing in a glass igloo, So yeah, The Cult is a band for me that I'm always willing to check out their stuff. Not all of it is top shelf, but they have a pretty good series of albums throughout their career. So I will always give The Cult a thumbs up.
Always like the guitar. I mean, the gothic connection as far as the guitar tone, with the delay and the reverb on, or the chorus on it.
Yeah,
it's just a very iconic anthemic sound, and I don't know, just they're very simplistic. Ian's voice. I don't own any Cult, but when they come on the radio, I like it. I can sing along with it, and it just has that jangly feel, which is very cool.
It very much does. And I'm blanking on the guitarist's last name. It's Billy something, but yeah, he's got a great guitar tone. He can play really heavy when he wants to. Also, he's not somebody who's just like stuck, with one particular tone or style. He can do a little bit of the psychedelic stuff. He can do that jangly stuff you mentioned, Marty. And he can also rock out pretty heavily when he wants to. So he's actually
Billy Duff. Thank you, Ryan.
Billy Duff. There we go. Thank you, Chad. So yeah, he actually covers a really good range of sounds.
I remember they used to play Firewomen like every other video on MTV back in the day.
That was their peak. Yep. They were big at that time. I like that song.
It's a great song. And he had serious pipes, that dude.
He did. He was
Asbury.
Yeah, fun trivia note. He was originally slated to play Jim Morrison in that Doors, big Hollywood movie that came out back.
He
in
actually
the early
played
90s.
with the Doors.
Yeah, he has. You're right. But yeah, for some reason he ended up not doing the movie. I don't remember the details. I'm not sure if he was just a little too drugged out at that point or something went wrong, and so it obviously got handed over to, who was it, Val Kilmer?
Yeah, Val Kilmer kind of killed it in that movie. He kind of killed it. Yeah.
But yeah, it would have been, I've always thought it'd been kind of interesting to see what Ian would have done in the role if he had stuck to it. We'll never know.
Hey,
well, I guess you can hear him play, like, yeah, you said, Marty, you've heard him play with the Doors, but it's one thing to play with them. It's another thing to actually portray Jim Morrison.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, I think I saw Ian in the chat.
Well,
Marty,
hi, Ian.
Yep. Let me go say hey to Ian while you take your next turn.
All right. We're starting to get into stuff where people give me shit about, but again, don't care. Love this stuff. And we're going to start. Someone mentioned him earlier in the stream, which I agree. Sabaton.
Oh, yeah.
Heroes. This is my favorite Sabaton record. This thing is, oh my God, it's so freaking catchy. So catchy, so well written. At the heart of it, it's pop structures and just really catchy riffs. And the lyrical placement, the whole thing, everything is so well done on here. It's all World War II, real events type of stuff. They're a band that has found their niche in singing about war and actual people from important wars and all this other stuff. But yeah, people, you're exactly right, Mike. There's either love them or hate them, nothing in between. I 100% agree. And I would have a long time ago been one that hates it, but this ended up, Zoller sent me a bunch of CDs. This was in it, and I threw it on just to say, okay, I got to check this out. 2 listens, and I'm like, wow. I ended up listening to the CD all day, just over and over. It's one of those you just put on and hit repeat and just let play because it's just fun. A lot of emotion in it, a lot of power in it. These guys are good. I don't understand the flack they get. I mean, they have a shtick. They're like Ghost. They have a shtick. In a lot of ways, they're kind of like Ghost, just a bit heavier. Another Swedish band. They're both Swedes. I don't know. I am just a fan of this band, and the ones after this, the ones before it, they're just a good band. And people dog on them, whatever. And trust me, my picks are going to start to get a lot cheesier after this. So grab your popcorn. But I know Alan isn't a big Sabaton fan. What about you, Jimmy? Are you a fan?
Yeah, I mean, in fact, Marty, you turned me on to that record because, like, and I think what it is like maybe, I mean, this is what it was for me is that I had never really given them a chance. I mean, I just saw pictures of them and I knew that they were really huge, and I just wrote them off like, they're just some, one of these nuclear blast, flavor of the minute kind of bands or whatever. But, actually listening to the music, I was like, wow, okay, I get what's going on here. It's very good. The vocalist is awesome. I really love it.
Really good. Very, he has a very, macho, that's a kind of a lame thing to say, but a very manly, melodious way of singing. I don't know. It just fits the topic. It fits the topic perfectly to me.
Yeah, I mean, kind of not unlike Hansi Kirsch. I mean, he doesn't sound like Hansi Kirsch, but he does have that similar kind of grit to him,
Yeah.
Yeah, I will give Sabaton one more chance sometime. I haven't completely written them off. They never have clicked with me, but they're not like yuck, I'm not going there again. They will get another chance someday.
I will get you the album. I'll buy you the one you need, so don't waste your money on it. I'll hunt down a copy and get a cheap one. Sure, I'm sure someone, but
I can track it. It's probably a YouTube listen kind of thing for me, so it's okay.
No, Alan, don't do it. Come on, Devin.
Come on, Devin. You'll grow up a little bit and you'll dig it.
Embrace the Velveeta. Yeah.
If you like melodies, then come on. They're good at this stuff. It doesn't matter. Give it a chance. Very good melodies.
You're back.
All right. This one, I'm going to go with Megadeth's Countdown to Extinction. And this album, I don't know really how much this is loved or hated. I mean, obviously I know the records that are loved, the ones that I love. When this came out, I was anticipating it more than anything, any kind of Nintendo game or anything like that. I was really, really just obsessed with this band. I was obsessed with Rust in Peace. And I remember they would like appear on not Metal Maniacs, Headbangers Ball every now and then, and you would get like a little snippet of something, and I would just watch just to hopefully see something with them. And there was one episode where Ricky Rackman was in the studio with them, and they were getting ready to release this, and they were playing some samples from it. So it comes out, I go and I pick it up the day it comes out. And I mean, at the time I didn't know shit about shit. So I was like, okay, yeah, this is good. Kind of sounds like their Black album, right? I mean, they kind of always are somewhat following the footsteps of Metallica. So Symphony of Destruction is their Enter Sandman. So, yeah, I mean, listening to it, I just listened to it today, actually. I mean, not really having too much time to like kind of prepare for this and actually listen to everything that I was going to show. But I was like, man, I haven't really spun this in a while. And honestly, it doesn't hold up as much as I thought it would. But at the same time, I mean, it is kind of more of Megadeth's kind of commercial record. And from here, they kind of really kind of just lose steam with everything they put out after this. But, being their sort of more commercial record, there is some good stuff. I mean, you do have to kind of get past Mustaine's vocals. I mean, he sounds like a herniated feline on this thing. I mean, sweating bullets, and there's really a lot of cringy Mustaine moments on this album. But at the same time, you strip away the vocals, and there's actually some really good songs on here. I mean, Skin of My Teeth is kind of a little bit more of the thrash song. But, you know, Foreclosure of a Dream, that's just a fucking good song.
It is a good, catchy song, yeah.
You know, and that's kind of their, what's the Metallica ballad? But it's kind of their Metallica
Unforgiven,
ballad.
Unforgiven.
Yeah, it's their Unforgiven. They've got their Unforgiven on here. They've got their Enter Sandman on here. You know, and there's some other songs that are kind of stupid. I mean, but at the same time, some of the lyrics on here are really good. Like on Captive Honor, I think Mustaine was really good at capturing, you know, sort of the horrors of war. And I think he kind of understood how things were, you know, back in those days. You know, you didn't have the internet and you kind of didn't really know what was going on except what you would see on the news, and you didn't really know how to discern between, you know, propaganda and actual truth, you know. And I think Mustaine had a way of kind of seeing through a lot of things, and it kind of shines through in his lyrics. But you know, for me, I mean, the title track is great. Ashes in Your Mouth is great, even though the lyrics are a little goofy on there. But you know, I mean, he could write some good lyrics when he really wanted to. But yeah, I mean, like I always kind of felt like this was the one that everybody kind of jumped ship for Megadeth, but I still really like it. I mean, I have a little hard time with it now just because the vocals just don't hold up as much. But yeah, you know, I mean, they unfortunately just went on to kind of release, you know, I didn't really pay much attention to them after this point. I mean, Cryptic Writings had some decent stuff, but, you know, I don't think they have ever really rebounded for me in terms of, you know, something even anywhere near Rest in Peace.
Check out Endgame. Check out the System.
Yeah, I've got those. And Endgame is good. I like Endgame. I liked the newest one. I thought there was some good stuff for sure.
Dystopia is really good. I have not heard the new one.
The new one's good. There's some good stuff on there. I mean, the Ice T parts are a little goofy just because they don't feel like they fit. But you know, there's actually some of the best riffs they've written, I think, in years are on that new one. But you know, you can't beat this classic lineup of Nick Menza and Marty Friedman in there. You know, that was the Megadeth lineup for me. But
let's be honest, Rust in Peace is a super hard album to follow up. What do you do after? I mean, that album is so freaking good, and almost from cover to cover, that album is great. And
yeah, I don't know how you would follow that up. I mean, that's a good
there's
point.
No way. And they kind of they went a little more commercial on Countdown, but it's still good. It still has the right, you know, Menza and the Freeman. They still killed it. I think it's a good record.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's not the Megadeth record for me. I bought it when it came out. Like you, Jimmy, I was, you know, really excited for it to come out. I bought it. I played it a ton, but I never really liked it much. And I think I think y'all have summed it up well. It's got, you know, really good, you know, musicianship going on, but for me, most of the songs just don't come together. There are some that are okay, but it's one of those times where the bad songs really annoy me to the point that the good songs aren't good enough to dig them out of that hole on Countdown. But it varies a lot. There are a lot of folks that will put that really high in their Megadeth pantheon. There are folks that take a total pass on it. But yeah, the musicianship is fine, but it's just that, you know, just too many irritating parts sink too many of the songs.
Oh yeah, there's some really there's some really bad parts on there.
Go ahead and do it, Marty. You know you're wanting to.
What?
Yeah.
So,
you know you're wanting to do it.
You know me. That.
Yeah, the real me. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how they had such a similar trajectory to Metallica, because I mean, for me, the first three Megadeths are pretty untouchable as well. You know, and then they do their commercial record, and then everything from there is kind of, you know, arguably downhill, but like in a similar way that maybe they could have never followed up with the, you know, the greatness that they had, like you said about Rest in Peace, you know, especially with Metallica. I mean, following up those records was pretty near impossible, you know. But I don't know if that was intentional on Dave's part, or if that he was just, you know, always feeling the Metallica ghost and kind of followed this similar path. But you know, still a great band, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's you're exactly right, Jimmy. And that's one thing that has irritated me over the years, is that it did feel like even at this point, Dave was still chasing Metallica, and it's like, why? You've put out excellent albums.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people would say they're better than their, you know,
Rust in Peace shits on everything that Metallica did. I'm sorry.
and you've just you've seen Metallica has done a swerve. They've taken a different path. Where they're going to be a big popular thing. That's okay, whatever. But that also means at that point, Dave could have ruled the roost. He had chased Metallica for years, wanting to one up them. Now it's handed to him on silver platter. So it's like, just keep doing what you're doing, and you are now king of the hill of the whole thrash scene. And what does he do? He records an album that's meant to go chasing after the Black Album. He had what he wanted. It seemed the perfect setup, and he couldn't even recognize it because he was so hung up on barking at their heels, which just irks me.
Yep.
My take, anyway.
No, I think you're right. I mean, it's never really made sense to me either. I always thought that Megadeth was the better band, at least in those days. It was hard choice, but there was just something about their more dangerous kind of edge to them that I really, thought that they were better. I never understood why.
Agreed.
And he wrote some great songs for Metallica.
Yep. Ah, well.
Okay, Ellen.
Okay. Yeah, let's go with this. Another band that kind of changed direction suddenly and threw a hell of a lot of people off. And this band continues to change directions. They've had an album come out within the past month, and I don't know if it sounds like anything else they've ever done. But this album in particular, a bunch of people are left thinking, what the fuck are this overdoing with themes of William Blake's
That album's pretentious, hot garbage. I'm in the should not listen to category. In fact, I sent my copy to Devin.
And I have played. I don't play it very often, but when this came out, I played it a ton. I found it extremely interesting. And if you pretentious this is not pretentious. If we want to get pretentious, we'll do the deep dive into the background material. Wow. And then we'll follow it up with the rest of the art and prose and writings as well. We can go there if we want to, but we're not going to. Yes, and so for this one, it struck me as a good example of guilty pleasure, where not a particularly popular album with a lot of metalheads. I think most folks would agree with you, Marty, that yes, it feels too pretentious and such. And much too big a sudden departure from Nathan's Madrigal and their earlier stuff. And people love those first three over albums, and you get to this, and it's just like, what are you doing?
Norway started to kind of lose its mind. They weren't the only band.
Those bands were evolving faster than fans could keep up at that point, for sure.
Thanks, Mike. You're too kind, man.
Thank you so much. Yep. Mike's one of the OG hardcore Metallurgy guys, and we love him.
We miss you on Wednesday nights, man. Where you been hiding?
He's with TJ back in the mix. He knows some weird picks are coming. He may be laying low. Yeah. No, it was fun to see TJ back for sure. But for whatever reason, I thought this was a very interestingly put together album, and the style shift, for whatever reason, in this case, it did not faze me. So it's like, okay, other over stuff, sure, good, fine, and I heard this, was like, wow, that is really different and unique, and I kind of dig it, and I still do. Ian, thank you too, man.
Thank you.
Everyone's being very generous tonight.
Everybody is too kind. We should hit 6,000 more often. Don't worry. We'll lose about 5 after tonight, and then hopefully another week we'll be back again.
This show alone has cost us at least 6 subscribers already.
It's about to get worse. Trust me.
We'll do the time walk again and get back to 6,000 about 10:45 tonight.
Right.
But yeah, bottom line is, even though I don't play it nearly as much as I used to, I do think this is a cool album. Over's not a band I kept up with for a long time after this. I didn't care for the follow-up Perdition City. I really didn't care for the short EP and soundtrack things they did after that. So that's kind of where I hopped off. But I've checked out a few of the newer things here and there, and I kind of like them. I very much like the new album, Liminal Animals. Yeah, that's a mouthful. It is not a heavy metal record at all. It's very much kind of I don't know if you call it synthwave or what. I don't know those genres well enough. I just know that I really do like the new Over album, even though it's way outside heavy metal territory. And I really like this one, and you could say this kind of stepped out of bounds for heavy metal turf as well, but I don't care. I still enjoy themes from William Blake's The Marriage of Heaven and Hell. And so, Marty, while you show your next one, I'll just do a little digging in the source material here. No, I'll get back to the chat and see.
It's a little required reading to understand.
I would love to see the book stacked on the back of your toilet in the bathroom. It'd be like I'd go there like there's not enough pictures in these books. Where's the pictures? I can't poop without pictures.
There's plenty. Mark, all this one has all the individual plates that correspond to each individual. The whole reason Ulver's album is divided into plates is they correspond to the actual color plates that Blake was making to go in this. So
cool. Well,
pictures, color.
When I come down and visit, I'll be able to poop. So just make sure that's in there.
You'll have plenty of poop material.
You won't leave the bathroom, Marty. You're going to be.
I'll have to call him in to sound out the big words for me. Alan, I can't read this one. Help!
If you're lucky, there might even be some woodcut boobs in there somewhere else.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It is got to have the stroking material in the bathroom.
Got to have it.
I didn't know they had a new record out yet. I like the last couple, like Shadows of the Sun and the Julius Caesar record was really good.
Yep. Yeah, they do, and it's straight like early '80s smooth electro synth pop, synth wave, something or another.
I think Matt from the Dark Path is coming out of retirement to review it for us. We will see.
Oh wow, cool!
I believe Marty has coaxed him into that.
He has. I don't know if I've heard an absolute confirmation. I need to reach out and find out. But
yeah. He was definitely intrigued at the possibility. Yep. So Matt, if you're out there, it's an open invite for sure.
Yep.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on the new Ulver. Because Matt knows their catalog inside and out. I don't. I can't review it because I'm not familiar enough with what they've done in recent years to have it in the right context.
They've only got 2 albums I really care about, the first and the third. But I don't. Feldsanger, that album is okay. Just kind of boring. I don't know. It sounds like their main guy went away on military service and they did what they could. Acoustic treatments. A vocal. Well, whatever. Who cares?
I like it, but it's the kind of thing I never play.
Never care to listen to it.
It's like, cool album. When's the last time I played it? 15 years ago.
Yeah.
That's a neofolk record.
Yeah.
I mean,
Bergtot Natten's Madrigal for me all the way.
Bergtot for me. That's the pinnacle. I mean,
Sunday, if you check them out, it will be a journey. No 2 albums sound really that much alike, so you'll have to figure out what style you want to hear and then pick the album that corresponds.
All right. Well,
take it away, Marty.
Let's climb upon Velveeta Mountain, rip off a hunk of cheese for nourishment, and pull out the Angus McSix and the Sword of Power.
There it is.
There it is. And laugh all you want. Listen to Amazons of Caledonia. Just pull it up and listen to it and tell me that's not a killer power metal song. He's a fantastic vocalist. He's cheesy as shit. You got capes. You got costumes. Yes. You got buff dudes with swords. And you got a guy dressed up like Skeletor, which is the main dude, Sid from Orden Ogan. So there is an Orden Ogan vibe to this music, which I like Orden Ogan, so that's good. Except they add some dancey shit on it, like Ride to Hell. It's cheesy. There's some really cheesy stuff on here, but Master of the Universe, super triumphant song. This album hit at a time. Yep, this is the fucking laser shooting dinosaur. Stupid animated, horribly drawn cartoons, videos, and it just hit at a time where I was so done with being just forced negativity down my face and my ears. And this album, it just was on repeat. It was fun. It's well done. It's catchy. Has everything I like. And then I'm going to lump this in with it because Angus was also in Glory Hammer too. So, and this is another one of those records that is just super cheesy, but so well written and catchy and fun. And again, a young me, if I knew that I had an album in my collection that had this sort of tomfoolery going on, I would have pile drived my nuts out in the driveway a couple times. But This is so cheesy and stupid, but God, I don't care. It's catchy. It's well done. It's good. And God damn it, it's fun. If you don't like fun, sometimes it's fun to have fun, right, Alan?
It is fun to have fun.
Yep.
But you do have to have the music to go with it.
And they got it.
Angus is yeah, I'm okay. I'm not, I don't play the album a ton. I don't own it, but it's Angus I can give a pass, all joking aside. That Gloria Hammer album you just showed, I bought that. I've tried that, and that album makes me angry. I can't be on board for that one.
It's all about the where is it? The Enchanted Backpack song. Oh, I can't read it. My eyes are bad. Oh, that's a fun thing that happened last couple of weeks. I had my first ever eye exam, and guess what? I need glasses. That's cool. Never happened before. I don't know. But listen to Amazons of Caledonia if you're going to check out this album and realize that the whole album isn't like that, but there are some definite, awesome, well-written power metal songs on there. Yep. And there it is. It's only going to get... Oh, it's going to get really... It's about to get weird. Anyway, you're back, Jimmy.
I am definitely going to check that one out, Marty. I love cheesy shit like that.
Dude,
that
it's fucking... Trust me, it's super fucking cheesy. Laser Shooting Dinosaur. Oh, yeah. It's got dancey, stupid dancey shit. It's awful, but it's fun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So this next one is a little bit fresh for me, and I think it was a perfect pick for this. But Amorphis' Am Universum, which is probably considered as one of their worst albums. Or I would imagine, anybody that's into the band would probably rank this pretty low on their list. I honestly had never even paid attention to this record. I did the Amorphis deep dive with Jeff last month, a couple months ago, whatever it was, and was forced to listen to it and realized I liked it quite a bit. Now, this is obviously that weird mid-era for Amorphis where they were kind of going in more of like a, I don't know, maybe kind of more of a 70s-ish kind of rock arena, and I think this is where they really got, maybe Far From the Sun was probably a little bit more like a grunge kind of record, but this was kind of the pinnacle of their sort of 70s sound. And I think a lot of people would probably go with Tunella as their favorites, but I don't know, man. The first time I listened to it, I just didn't really digest it very much, and I felt like I needed to give it its due. And I don't know, as I listened to it, I started to really like it. I mean, the first few songs kind of don't really hit me too hard, but when you start getting further into the record, by the midpoint and the end point, like the last, I kind of feel like it's like sort of bottom heavy. The last 4 songs on this I think are great, and I think Passy was a really good vocalist. I think he had his time with this band, and it's kind of interesting to see like where this band went, because they were such, always experimenting, always changing their sound quite a bit from album to album. And then once they got Tommy on vocals, they've kind of coasted on this, sound that they've landed on for the last like 7 or 8 albums. And I told Jeff, I was like, when we did the second part of that deep dive, I was like, we're gonna review the same Amorphis album 7 times, because each album is almost discernible from the other. And that's not to say I love those records. I think they're all great, but it's the same sound through and through. Mm-hmm. But, they were really stretching things here. They were really kind of, I don't know if they finally realized that, okay, this was just an experiment. But yeah, man, I mean, I don't know. I really like this record. I think it's awesome. As well as Tunella. I didn't think that I would really dig those at all. I find these even better than some of the lower tier Tommy records, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, a sound completely forgotten from the Amorphis camp. I
haven't listened to that record since it came out.
I don't know what the hell is going on the cover, but there's something about it I really dig. I don't know. It's like, I don't know if it's like an alien neck or
guts.
something.
It looks like someone's guts or something. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, man, great record. I mean, Amorphis for me really didn't do a bad record, except for maybe Far From the Sun. But even that album, there's a couple songs I like. So there you go. But really, really kind of the end of the Passy era of the band. And I thought he did a really great job with the band, even though his vocal style kind of had its limits. Didn't really, not a whole lot longevity for him. with the band. But yeah.
All right. Good pick, Alan.
Yeah, I kind of lost touch with Amorphis over the years. I would check in every now and then, like you said, Jamie's be like, this album sounds decent, but it sounds a lot like the one I heard 2 years ago. Then 2 years later, be like, this album also sounds decent, but it sounds like the last two I checked out, if I remember right. So have not caught up on them in a long time. Okay, if we're doing like, cheesy, Marty's going down the cheese trail, might as well just go back, to sort of, where it all began with the true kings of cheese.
Oh boy.
Manowar. People revere the early Manowar, but when it gets to this point and they got onto Atlantic Records, then some folks are putting down the barbell and leaving the gym. But frankly, I still like the Atlantic material. Yes, it's not on quite the same level as Hail to England and Sign of the Hammer, maybe, but it's still fun. Eric Adams always sounds fierce, and this album and the songs they're doing on this phase, they're one-dimensional, and there are a couple of songs here and there that are just they kind of miss the mark, but there's still a lot of extremely good ones on here. This album's worth it, just for the closer. Black Wind, Fire and Steel is amazing, but you've got Defender is still very good. It sounds like an older track. Maybe it was an older Leftover track, I don't really know. You've got Violence and Bloodshed. You've got, Holy War is still good. I don't mind the title track. It's kind of silly, but it's catchy. It's meant to be just, again, the fun, fist pumping anthem kind of thing.
Yeah, it's not a headbang. It makes you do this.
Yeah. You're not going metal thrashing mad listening to it, but you can, you're going to get into it.
Yep.
So I understand why some folks aren't into this era of Manowar, why it doesn't rank as high for most folks, but I am still perfectly okay. Everything Manowar did in the 80s, I'm fine with.
Right.
Some of the stuff they did in the 90s, I'm fine with. But the 90s, is Manowar just has such a weird catalog because they do so little after the 80s. I mean, they have 4, 5, 6. They did 6 albums in the 80s. And since then, they've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 albums since the 80s. It's a weird discography.
Well, Joey at some point in the 90s started fancying himself a composer. So that's where things kind of changed. They started to get more Disney. They started to get more...
And I like the first Disney album. I don't think the Disney was the problem. Yeah,
I do too.
The Disney was the problem. At some point, I mean, they always, of course, went for the crazy, huge image and all that stuff. To me, though, it did feel like at some point they just around, especially by Gods of War, they were just smelling their own farts. They're really just like, we really are the gods of metal. Now we really do need to record 72-minute hymns to ourselves.
Yeah.
And it didn't work at all at that point. So,
but Manowar has they have the chops to back up the cheese, and that's what's important about the early stuff in particular. Yeah, you look at the loincloths and the pictures, and you snicker and sneer, but you put it on, it's like, this is some killer fucking heavy metal. It just is.
Yeah.
Eric Adams is a fantastic vocalist.
Yeah.
Joey's an amazing. Everything together was great. It's just great.
Yeah, we're trying, and it's why I can really get into that kind of cheese, but why I have trouble with some newer bands style of cheese. They have the look, they have the props, they don't have the songs. They just don't have that same ability. It's almost, you listen to a band like Windrose, and it's like they're almost going out of their way to avoid playing a guitar solo. It's like, no. You just stand there and kind of bounce from foot to foot. Let the keyboard keep doing something instead. Don't break out into a guitar solo, man. That's not cool. It's just like, fuck that, man. Blow your speakers with rock and roll. So yes, Manowar for sure.
All right. Well.
All right, Marty, what you got loaded for us next?
Funny you mentioned Windrose because they are next on the stack.
Oh, motherfucker.
Winter Saga. This is, I don't own any Windrose. This is my kid's CD, so we go on a trip.
I own more Windrose than you do?
You do. All the Windrose in this house is part. He has all of them now, I think. So,
I feel dirty.
Yep. But I'm not going to lie. This is like These guys are Italian. They sound a lot stylistically. They connect with Sabaton. It's that style of power metal, but these guys are more Celtic. They got a lot of fiddles and keyboard stuff in there. It's actually really well done, and the guy's got a really good voice. The thing that is really stupid here is they took a fan of Minecraft who wrote a fan song called Diggy Diggy Hole, and they did a cover of it, and they shot a video for it. And if you go on Spotify, it's got like 20 bazillion views, listens, and so that song
half of
is
them
on
are
here.
from my wife, by the way.
Yeah, and my kid, and me, unfortunately, with my kid. But it is so stupid and cheesy, but it is so freaking catchy. This whole album is just from cover to cover. Again, another one of those that you hate yourself for liking it, but it's too well done. They do it well. They're in a lane where they dress up like dwarves. They call themselves dwarves. It's stupid. It's cheesy, but it's just fun, stupid, well done metal. So my kid digs it. I have to give that back to him, or he'll cry. I give that back to him. Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
I don't know this one, but they kind of look like Twilight Force in a way, like looking at the picture of them.
Oh, they're coming up too, Jimmy. Just wait. Everybody's dipping into my playlist
Dude,
here tonight.
if you look at the picture on Encyclopedia, man, it's hilarious. The guy's dressed up like a dwarf, and it's really cool looking. Actually,
the costumes and all are really good, but
And they're
yeah,
good.
Jimmy, they're kind of closer to Glory Hammer with even less of a guitar presence.
okay.
Which
All
I'm sorry,
right.
if you're going to be a power metal band, you got to bring the 6 strings. You just do.
They really focus on the extracurricular instrumentation with the synth and the sing along stuff.
And the synth and
Yep.
more synth and then some synth on top of that. It's just play me a guitar solo. It's all I'm asking for. When the Diggy Diggy Hole cover is the only good song in your log,
It's not though. Don't be there's some good shit. They're a good band.
Yeah. I'm glad Parker digs them. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. If folks like them, that's absolutely fine. They've got a cool look, but it just doesn't work for me overall.
Is the
sadly.
dwarf guy the singer?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow, man, he's got the hammer and everything.
He's a big dude. He's a big dude too.
Yeah,
He kind of crushes it. They came through US and they packed the places. They're popular everywhere. They're popular here. They're popular overseas. Big overseas, huge overseas. But
Which one was that you showed? Was that the new one? Troll Slayer?
no, it was Winter Saga.
Okay.
Winter Saga.
All right, I'm gonna check these guys out for sure, man.
Put it on a car drive. You're going camping, throw it on and just listen to it on the way out there and say, okay, I've done it. I've done my. Are they as good as Sabaton? I don't know, but they're in the same realm for sure.
Watch the Diggy Diggy Hole video. It is definitely worth watching.
It's fun. Yeah.
Yep. Credit where it's due. It's a fun video. They did the project really well.
They did. All right, Jimmy.
All right, well, keeping in with the cheesy theme, though this is a bit of a different style of cheese. Raunchy death pop romance. And I like stuff like this. I mean, I actually haven't listened to it in a while, but it's a Danish band, kind of in the vein of sort of like the melodic death metal that was coming out of Gothenburg in the late 90s, early 2000s. But these guys had a little bit of a uniqueness to them in terms of the title Death Pop Romance really perfectly describes what this band sounds like. I mean, it's sort of the melodic death, but there's kind of like an 80s like discotheque kind of sound, like a kind of a bump to the drum style. And there's death vocals, there's clean vocals, very catchy, very awesome stuff. I still dig it. I mean, I really thought this band was killer, and they were one of those ones that kind of were under the radar on Life Force Records. A lot of Life Force bands were kind of like not really paid attention to. But I mean, the best way I can kind of remember, picturing what these guys sound like. Have you ever seen the movie Hostel? For some reason, I kind of imagine this record to be like the soundtrack for that movie, because there's some scenes where they're like in the dance club, and then there's the romance, and then there's the killing, and there's the horror, and this kind of has a little bit of all that. But yeah, they did probably like 5 or 6 records. This was the one they did with the guy that was singing for a band called Arcane Order, which was a little bit more of an extreme kind of melodic death metal. But he had a really killer vocal, and the keyboardist does like all the the clean vocals. Yeah, it doesn't scream melodic death metal at all. I mean, raunchy, the name, it really kind of encapsulates what they sound like in a way. But it is kind of melodic death. I mean, it's definitely some death metal in there, but it's not like blast beat death metal. It's like, I don't know, like dance death metal or something. I don't know, man. I love shit like this. I mean, I haven't listened to it in a long time, but I had a soft spot for a lot of the melodic death kind of stuff. And if you were to check this out, Wade, I would say check Death Pop Romance out. They released like maybe 2 or 3 more after this. They're all good, man. They're just all just catchy, fun kind of. I don't know. I mean, I guess I feel a little guilty for liking stuff like this, knowing where I am today in my music trajectory. You know, when I was getting back into metal and things like that in the late 90s, early 2000s, I mean, I kind of needed more like catchy, like easier to digest kind of stuff. And stuff like this fit the bill for me. So, yep, do what you will. Go watch Hostel and put this on. It fits perfectly. And rock out to the raunchiness of raunchy. So...
Interesting. Yeah, I've seen that band name before, but yeah, I didn't know what the heck to make of it. I would not have thought of them being melodic death metal.
Melodic death metal with disco. If you can imagine.
If you had given me 20 guesses, I would not have guessed that. Based on
the next record is called Wasteland Discotheque. So there you go.
All right, Alan.
Okay. Time we got a bit more cheesy 80s style and went in more of a hairspray direction. Yeah, their glam metal, of course, is not exactly aged particularly well, but for those of us that grew up with it, yeah, you're going to have a soft spot for it here and there for sure. North, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Always fun to have you in the chat. North's got a great sense of humor and always lots of good insights. Thank you very much, sir. And you donated right before I showed a Firehouse CD, so that's good timing on my part.
Oh man, oof. Alan's never gonna let you go.
Yep. Why Firehouse? This one, I always thought they were a little better.
That's a good question. Why Firehouse?
Why? I'm glad you asked, Marty.
Why? Yeah.
Because they are a little better than the typical band from that era. You know, Firehouse came out relatively late in the game, so could have been easy to have gotten lost. But they actually did manage to, string together several hits. They got a fair amount of, airplane stuff. The debut album shown here, did quite well. By the time the sophomore album came out, grunge had already hit, so they had a pretty short lifespan. But this one I always liked enough that it has stayed on the CD shelf over the years. As is typical for the better bands here, they could write catchy songs that would get stuck in your head. The musicianship is nothing to write home about. To be fair, I like the guy's voice. The thing for this album, though, that I liked the most was that whoever did the production, they actually did give it some bottom end, which is something that you didn't hear a lot of in glam metal albums. Most of them, it's all vocals and guitars, and the rest of the stuff, it's there in the background somewhere. But the songs on the Firehouse debut actually do have some bass to them. It's actually got a relatively heavy sound. Yeah, don't take that out of context. I'm comparing it to the Faster Pussycats and the Poisons and the Warrants of the world. This one's actually got a production that suits the music a lot better. So, yes, I understand why this is not going to appeal to most metalheads, and certainly not folks in younger generations. This was not the soundtrack of your youth. You didn't play this on the school bus with your friends. You didn't listen to these songs and slow dance to the cheesy ballads at your 8th and 9th grade dances and all that. But yeah, it's part of my background. It's a better album than most. And fun trivia fact, if, like me, you've got a soft spot for Firehouse, they actually did release a 7-inch single before they got big. They actually operated under the name White Heat, and there's a single that's a pain in the ass to try to track down and find, but it does have an early version of let's see, I think, yeah, the last song, Helpless, which was one of the songs that got airplay back in the day. they actually were performing that song back in the day as White Heat. And because I'm a sick little monkey, there you go. White Heat with Helpless. This is Firehouse before they were Firehouse. And yeah, this is a pain in the ass to find. Doesn't necessarily command a high price tag because there's not like there's a rabid global Firehouse.
Heck, White Heat logo looks almost like Watchtower a little bit.
It does, yes. Even the font on it does too.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Too. It's kind of weird. And there's some other White Heat bands too. There was a new wave of British heavy metal White Heat that you don't want to get this confused with. But yes, for the hardcore Firehouse fans, right there. Once you have the debut album and you've got the 7-inch, that's all she wrote. 2 people out there are going to get that.
I wonder who is the record label for that 7-inch?
The 7-inch is on something called Teaser Records.
Teaser Records. Yep. I wonder what happened to those guys.
I don't know. I don't know if it was a self-released kind of thing or if it was
probably
a small
White Heat's thing. Yeah,
it might have been White Heat's thing. They were a mid-Atlantic band. They operated out of Charlotte at one point, I think, but they also operated out of either northern or central Virginia for a while, I think. I don't quite know the geography when they moved where, but yeah, I can't think of anything else on Teaser Records. Maybe I'll look that up while Marty takes his turn.
I don't know what's better about that cover art, the girl, or the fact that there's a house on fire.
I mean, it's got everything that metal fans want: hot chick, arson.
Look, they couldn't afford Tawny Katane, so they got the bartender's friend who looked kind of like her.
I think by the time this one came out, Tawny Katane was kind of over and done with. Because again, this is probably a 1990 release. It's a bit late in the game for hair metal. Yeah, copyright's 1990, so it could have even come out in early 91. But yeah, they slipped in just in time to have their 15 minutes of fame. There was always, and the last thing I'll say with Firehouse, there was always a goofy rumor in my neighborhood because again, they were, kind of in the North Carolina, Virginia area. One of the girls that lived down the street from me claimed she was dating one of the guys from Firehouse. And we were always kind of like, okay, sure, Shannon. Sure you are.
Yeah. I mean, they were on MTV quite a bit, like back
then. Oh
then.
yeah, no, they were a thing for a hot minute there. And in my opinion, more deservedly so than a lot of those type of bands. But we've probably talked enough about Firehouse. So Marty, dig us another hole or dig me out of this hole.
All right. Well, this is a band that I'm getting the impression a lot of Germans don't like. I know Jürgen is one of them. I don't know, Mike, chime in here, but I really ended up liking this band a lot. Pink Cream 69. This is Andy Darris's band before he was plucked from them to join Halloween. And the first album is very glammy. It's okay. This is the one where it starts to get better. It's in fact, a lot of this sounds like kind of Darris era Halloween and a little glammier. And this one here is just a pretty solid record, a little bit more political here and there, but still has a glammy edge to it. It's just pretty well done, heavy metal, rock type stuff. And of course it's Andy Darris, so if you like his voice, then this is great. Yeah, I know. Stupid name, man. What a dumb name for a band. But a couple of these guys, Dennis Ward and the drummer Costa, are managers for Halloween now, and they were also in the band Unisonic with Michael Kiska and Kai Hansen. But if you're going to check them out, check out this one, Games People Play. It might be the one that's a little bit more palatable for you. This one's good as well. This is one size fits all. So check those two out. The first one, if you're very adventurous, it's puts them right in the league with Firehouse, except Firehouse had the catchy hits, But yep, possibly the worst band name ever. Agreed.
Is it though? I mean, it's bad. But what is the worst band name ever? I'm going to try to tangent us just for a moment out of curiosity. Jimmy, what's the worst band name you can think of off the top of your head for a real band, not just making up names?
Well, there was that glam band called Tuff, Tuff.
That's pretty
so
bad.
They changed the spelling and Tough. I mean, Pink Cream 69 is pretty bad too, but at least it's sort of, you know, I wouldn't say it's like adventure. Maybe it's a tad bit adventurous. So, I mean, but it's maybe thinking a little bit outside. Now, you got to also figure when they came up with the name, I mean, what year was it, right? I mean, it wasn't necessarily, you know, well, but you also got to figure, I mean, you had a lot to draw from these days. It's hard to find a band name.
Hey, Jim Dofka. Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Everybody go check out Dofka. Good heavy metal / power, awesome, great guitar player.
Yeah.
Bathtub Shitter.
We got some other good votes here.
Bathtub Shitter.
Fed. Yeah.
That's
Aaron's
a Japanese
right.
band.
Bashful is a horrible name for a band.
Yeah. Angel is stupid.
Enough's enough. Yep.
Angel's kind of generic.
Enough. Yeah.
One of my all-time go-tos for worst band name ever was I believe they were French. Snail Booster. That's a thing that happened. I just blew your mind.
What was Dissection John Nodvite's band before? Something Carrot Rabbit, something Rabbit.
Oh
Carrot.
yeah, that was pretty bad too. I don't remember, but you're right, Marty, or something like that.
Hold on, let me find it here. I'm curious now.
Snail Booster always. I'm just like, I'm sorry, I don't care what country you're from. You can translate better than that.
Rabbit's Carrot. Rabbit's Carrot.
That's. Yeah, let's be glad that he didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
I think here it is. It's serious, right? Puddle of Mud for sure. That sucks.
Yep. Autograph. Yeah, I never liked Autograph as a band name.
Lords, yeah, or the Shitty Beatles,
or Blood Cum. That was another.
North,
band.
Is that a real thing? I won't doubt that it is. That's pretty bad.
Diarrhea Planet. Yeah, that's good.
I never liked Accept as a band name. I'm not saying it's the worst name ever. Yeah, I never thought Accept was a particularly good name.
What about Party Cannon?
Party Cannon. Yeah,
that's not good either. Yeah. Okay, we don't have to stay. We don't have to continue down this.
There you go. Old head with the hooba stank.
A whole nother episode for you guys. You know?
Yeah. Sitting around thinking up stupid Trickster. Ugh. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So just a slight detour there, and North says that really is a thing, huh? Yeah.
Who just went? Oh, I just went Pink Cream. I'm glad to see there are a few Pink Cream fans in the chat. So cheers to you. It's good shit. Anal blasphemy. Yeah. I don't know what's worse, the name or the guy's band photo on the back where he's got bullet belt and no pants or underwear on. It's just like one of those band photos you look at and you're like, man, how drunk do you got to be coerced into saying this is blasphemous? No, it's not.
You go to the band practice, guys. I know what's going to get us over. Picture this.
I didn't know it got that chilly in Brazil. Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Jimmy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this one's pretty unpopular, I think, but Carcass, Swan Song. The much
controversial.
Yep. Carcass record.
You and Alan should start a gang.
Yeah,
I'm okay with this. Yeah. It's not the best album, but it's got its moments.
I like this record. I mean, it's the one and done sort of death and roll Carcass record. I mean, interesting how the Carcass trajectory always kind of developed in a certain way on every record. Not always the greatest, but interesting that they kind of went, from the gore grind to the melodic death metal to the death and roll. So I'm just glad that this was the only thing that they did with this. Whereas like there was other bands that kind of did the death and roll thing and kind of stuck with it and should have really kicked it after the first record, Gorefest and Entombed, I think. But I don't know. I think, even if it's a death and roll, I still think there's some good songs on here. I think there's good riffs. I mean, it's very simplistic, very straightforward. But I feel like the Carcass spirit is still kind of there. Yeah, maybe not the gore spirit, but just, Bill Steer's riffs and, Jeff's vocals are still pretty intact the way that they've been for a couple records. And there's good solos on here. And yeah, it's just kind of catchy stuff. And I mean, obviously Carcass was pretty much done at this point after this album, at least for a while. but I didn't really care much for it when it came out. I kind of stopped paying attention to them. It took me kind of getting a little bit older and going back to it and being like, there's actually some good stuff on here. I mean, it's catchy. Keep on riding in the free world. Black Star, Rock the Vote's a good song. I mean, and it's the last album we have with Ken Owen on drums, and he actually gave a pretty awesome drum performance on this, even though it's pretty,
he was on the Black Star album too.
Oh, the Black Star, yeah, which was kind of like supposed to be like this.
It was it was Swan Song Part 2, basically. Yeah.
I don't even know that I ever listened to that record, but I listened to this today, and I was like, yeah, I still did this. I like the production, I like the riffs, I like the way the guitar sound. Jeff still sounds killer. It's just rocking Carcass. I'm glad they didn't stick with it though. Like it was like, oh, that was pretty good. Let's do another one. Really happy they didn't. But well, I guess you could say they did with Black Star. But and then disappear for 15 years or whatever it was. Come back and do a couple of what I consider to be killer records. But I don't know, man. For me, I can't get enough Carcass usually. And even when Carcass does Death and Roll, yeah, I can do it. I just wouldn't want to see them do it again. If they're going to experiment like this, I'm good with it and call it for what it is. But is this necroticism? No, it is not. But
no. It is still
I'm
Carcass.
Fine with it.
It's got the Carcass vibe.
Yeah.
Again, they were kind of in that position. What do you do after Heartwork? That album was so universally praised. And they did what a lot of brave people will do. They went kind of a different direction.
Yeah. I mean, also, what do you do after Heartwork when you're having major sort of label issues and inner band turbulence is starting to become a real thing too?
Yeah,
the ground they were on was pretty shaky at that point. So,
when I wonder, were they the first one to do the Death and Roll thing, or was it Entombed with Wolverine?
I think it was Entombed.
Was it Entombed?
I think Entombed did it first, and then somebody did it before Entombed, but just didn't become very popular with it. Yeah, Entombed popularized it for sure.
I know Gorefest did it. Those are the three that come to mind. I feel like there were some other ones, but
Grave did it. Desultory did it. All the band. Furbowl did it, but Furbowl did a really good job with it. They're a good Death and Roll band.
Desultory did not do a good job with it.
No, that was a horrible mistake.
I don't even think I ever heard that one. Zesma, yeah, they did it.
Swallow the Snake. It's called Swallow the Snake. It's their third album, and it sucks. It's bad.
Well, and Tomb did it with Wolverine Blues, and that was a good record too. But then they kind of.
I like to ride, shoot straight, speak the truth.
Yeah, I don't know that. But didn't they kind of continue that sound for a while though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I need to go
on a
back
couple albums at least. Yep.
Yeah.
Is it on the self-titled album, Marty? Because I don't know if I've ever heard that one.
Which one?
The self-titled Entombed album.
I think they started to get a little heavier. Well, they were always heavy, but
they drifted back towards.
They started to drift back. I think it was. God, I have to look at the discography here.
Oh yeah, Convulse also did that. Yeah,
Tuned. A lot of bands did it.
Yeah.
It went Left Hand Path, Ride, Shoot Straight, Speak the Truth. Same difference. They're still doing it. Uprising. Isn't the self-titled one is kind of like a bunch of singles and shit thrown together, isn't it?
I don't know. Let me check. Maybe I'm thinking of Same Difference.
Uprising, I think they started to get a little heavier, and then on Morning Star, it was starting to be more deathly again. But
well, I mean, Entombed did it pretty good. I mean, like I pulled this too, just because kind of the same. The Wolverine thing was kind of dumb, but
I loved Wolverine Blues. I thought they did a really good job.
Yeah.
They wrote good songs. It was way better than Clandestine. Way better than Clandestine, I thought. The songs were more concise.
I don't know if I mean, I dug Clandestine, but it's kind of a different record. Yeah, I don't know. This one had a lot of good stuff. I mean, they were getting a lot of MTV play, and I don't know. I fell off after this, but Hollow Man, Eve Master, that was good. Yeah.
Yep. Hollow Man was in the chat a bit earlier. Might still be.
All right, Alan.
Okay, which direction to go in? Let's do a different direction. Black metal, can be polarizing, of course, and it has its fair share of B-tier bands. This band takes a lot of crap, and for good reason. And I don't like most of their catalog, but I do think early on they had some good stuff. And I will stand by early Cradle of Filth. I usually go pick this one for early Cradle, Dusk in Her Embrace, the second full-length album, not counting the Vampire thing, which was more like some kind of very long EP. But yeah, obviously, you know, they had their gimmick and it worked for them. All the, you know, black metal with kind of, you know, the gothic romantic horror vibe. And, you know, let's, you know, throw around some good blasphemous phrases and slap them on shirts and sell 1,000 of them. And yeah, okay. Yeah, it became an industry. But I do like what they did on the first couple of albums. You know, Donnie, say what you will about Donnie Filth, very good lyricist. Now, this is a band I mentioned earlier. Like you never want to sit down and try to read the lyrics to a cult album. Very much you can sit down and, you know, read through lyric sheets to Cradle of Filth albums.
It's kind of like a modern day Martin Walker.
Exactly. That's exactly who I was going to compare him to. Good call, Marty. Yeah, very, very well done in the lyrical department. And a lot of the early songs are good. There's a lot of, you know, unlike a lot, you know, some black metal bands, the songs can run together. At the end of it's like, okay, that was a good album, but songs may not stand out individually. Lots of the Cradle songs, you know, would stand out. They understood, you know, how to differentiate the tracks, you know, and put together a really strong playlist. Over time, of course, it kind of just slowly devolved. By the time you get to maybe like album 4 or so, yeah, I had enough, and I think a lot of folks had too, although they've always maintained a fan base. But yeah, things like, you know, Principle of Evil Made Flesh, Dusk in Her Embrace, even the one that came after this, the Countess Bathory album, Cruelty and the Beast.
Cruelty and the Beast, yeah.
Yeah, some folks, you know, by that point, some folks had jumped off. I thought even that album was okay. I still, you know, will take that one out and play it from time to time as well. So I understand why folks crap on the band. I understand, yeah, and I agree. Most of their catalog is not very interesting, but I do think at least early on that they did have they had enough, you know, going for them musically that it wasn't just a hype project. It wasn't just oh my goodness, look what's on that T-shirt. Wow, let's follow that band now. It's like, no, there actually was, you know, really good music to latch onto as well, for a while anyway.
All right. Well, this is the last of the power metal, I believe, but we saved a doozy. Twilight Force.
Yeah. There you go.
At the heart of Winterdale. And like Jimmy mentioned, these guys, they're total LARPers. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
They all got the elf ears, and they all wear it live. It's ridiculous, but say what you want. This album rips. It rips.
It's awesome.
It's like if Emperor was a symphonic power metal band. I listened to some of the synth layers and the riffs and the harmonies and the solo work. Puts me in mind of Emperor. It really does. But yeah, it's super cheesy, but it's fun. Every album's got a dragon on it. And it's just really well written, really well considered. You can tell a lot went into the compositions and the tracks of these records. All of them are good, every single one of them. And if you can make a deal with yourself to ignore the cheese, this is a worthy acquisition. You're gonna like it. You're gonna like it, especially if you like symphonic power metal.
Yeah. Now these guys have some more metal chops to them than some of the other modern power metal projects. These guys really can, you know, shred a bit when they want to.
Yeah, I mean, cheesiness aside, I mean, that's some seriously well composed music. I mean, it didn't half-ass anything on that album. I mean, the videos are fucking so good too. I mean, yeah. It's absolutely nice. But I mean, that's the thing, and you get past the cheese a little bit, and you're like, man, you know, they didn't just, you know, shit this. I mean, you could tell they really worked hard on that stuff. I mean, to make it sound as good as it does.
And the singer is the guy from Rhapsody of Fire singing on it. And I don't know what's going on with that now, because they toured the U.S. last year with a lady singer, and I don't know. I don't know
the
what's going on.
Rhapsody band family tree has gotten to be such a mess that you got to be really dedicated to try to figure out who's in which version at any given time. Yeah,
Yep.
It's a bit of a mess.
But Twilight Force rules. Go check them out. All 4 of their records are awesome. And Jimmy, you're back. I'm going to go use the potty, and I'll be right back.
All right. I hadn't thought about this band in a while, and I was looking through my collection trying to find things that would fit the subject. And I picked Extol, Synergy. Extol is a Norwegian sort of, I guess, technical thrash, sort of borderline progressive, death metal, kind of all those things thrown together. But I think what kind of turned off a lot of people about the band was that, they're hardcore Christians, so they're singing about God and they're singing about glory and, all these things. And I think, if you can kind of get past all that kind of stuff and not really give a shit about really what they're singing about and listen to the music, excellent band. They're Christian. They released probably 4 or 5 records. This is the 3rd one. And I think might be my favorite one. I don't know. Undeceived was the one before this one, was really great. And it took me a little while to kind of warm up to the vocals on this because the older stuff is a little bit lower, kind of a lower depth, kind of not really a growl, but kind of went from that to kind of more of a high pitched kind of yell, kind of maybe even more like a borderline hardcore kind of a approach, along with all the clean vocals, the great clean vocals that Oli Barrett does on here. And I think his name is Peter Espival. But great Norwegian band, Solid State Records put a lot of these out. And it's a lot of, I don't know, they don't really push it too hard in terms of trying to push their religion on you, but they do kind of sing about that kind of stuff. So you can kind of, and there's a whole world of, Christian metal kind of stuff, like Living Sacrifice, those kind of things. But I mean, you listen to the band, you wouldn't think these guys were Christian at all because they're abrasive as fuck, man. But killer, very kind of forward-thinking, kind of progressive stuff, mixed with a sort of atheist style, technical thrash, death kind of shit. And I just, it's funny. I hadn't even thought about these guys in a while, and I was going through all my collection last night trying to figure out picks, and I put this on today, and it held up really good. They put out, I think, they had broken up for a while and put out another record probably about 10 years ago or something like that. Oli Barrett, the guitar player that does a lot of the clean vocals, actually did a project called Flesh Killer that was really good as well about 5 or 6 years ago. Kind of very much in the vein of this stuff. Tourniquet, things like that. But I mean, I don't know what happened. They got back together, they released another record, and then they kind of disappeared again. So it'd be cool to see them come back. I think the only record they've released, they tried to do a sort of Deftones type thing on, I think it was called the Blueprint Dives or something like that, which wasn't really that great, but everything else they did was pretty awesome stuff. So, if you're into things like Believer, Atheist, with a bit of kind of progressiveness, clean vocals, things like that. Great band. Definitely worth checking out. Extol.
Good band. Agreed. All right, Alan.
All right, so Marty had a Twilight Force with a dragon. I say, why not a DragonForce with a dragon?
Parker's like, you want to borrow one of my DragonForce CDs? I'm like, no, that's a band I still haven't fully embraced yet.
This one I latched onto.
That one's good.
Yes, some DragonForce albums are definitely better than others. Early on, I think they were really fun.
They are.
Yeah, very catchy. Yes, I know people, have always whispered about they sped it up in the studio. And yes, I know
so did Immortal. So did Immortal. They actually did.
If they did, okay. It sounds kind of cool. And yes, I know they can't replicate it live very well because I saw them live around this time and they were still fun, but they couldn't play at quite the same speed as the album. It was still fun. So I really didn't care. But this was a good early example of 21st century power metal with a band really trying to embrace going for this big fun sound, and once again, like we've been saying, it's fun to have fun, but also really backing it up with some fun musical chops throughout as well, not just relying on the gimmick. They act goofy, they pose funny and stuff like Gamma Ray and bands did, but they didn't need to dress up like dragons. They don't have a giant inflatable dragon that they pass around in the crowd to hide the fact that they're just playing the same 3 notes over and over, like an hailstorm or something. There's really good individual musicians in the band. This is the second album, Sonic Firestorm. They would break big with the third album, Inhuman Rampage. That's the one that got it was kind of an early hit on YouTube with the first video, Through the Fire and the Flames. And of course there's the huge Guitar Hero connection. That's when they got big. But this has always been my favorite. The album before that, the songs overall feel a bit better. Over time, DragonForce definitely is guilty of just making the same damn album too many times, and in many cases just making the same damn song too many times. They did need to maybe branch out a little bit. So at some point they did slow down a little bit, so there's maybe a little variation by the time you get to album 5 or 6, but it's variations on a theme by that point. So I don't keep up with them anymore. I think I've got the first 4, maybe the first 5 DragonForce albums, and that feels like that's plenty. There would have to be a really good reason for me to want to dig into a new DragonForce release and feel like, oh yeah, I need this one too. The first several, though, very fun stuff. That is my kind of power metal. It can be fun, it can be cheesy, but I do want to hear the bands just really rip and cut it loose, and that is exactly what DragonForce did. So there we go. I've got one more power metal one in the stack. We'll see if I get around to it.
Well, I'm starting to slide into the glam era, and we're going to start here, I guess. This band, it's funny how all these bands I used to just watch on MTV and just detest, now they must have got in somehow, because now I look back on it and enjoy it. Like Whitesnake. Man, this album, the song Slow and Easy, what an amazing blues rock song. What an amazing song. It's just a great rock song. A great singer, great guitar player. And of course, this one was the huge, you got Still the Night on here, and Crying in the Rain, Bad Boys. This is just, Here I Go Again. And this is just really good shit. It just is. It's good blues rock. David Coverdale, amazing singer. The lyrics, the lyrics are gross. It's just gross. It's like he's writing from the perspective of a giant veiny dick. It's like if a dick had a conscience and was able to write lyrics, it is the lyrics that Dave Coverdale was writing during this whole era. He's a good-looking guy, probably getting laid a lot, and the lyrics are gross, but it's just really good shit. And getting older, I find myself circling around, and when I find the records cheap, I buy them, and I enjoy them. Guilty pleasure for sure. Again, young me would be like, what happened to you, you old stupid idiot? But that's the way it goes. Jimmy.
All right. Well, keeping in with your glam motif, and also keeping with the white bands, White Lion, Pride, and also Big Game. I don't actually have a copy of that one, but hey, man, before I got into like the heavier stuff, watching MTV as a young lad, early 90s, they were playing a lot of White Lion, and I always found like these guys were kind of a little bit of a step to the side from a lot of the glam bands, and that I felt like there was a little bit more of an honesty to them, like they weren't just total, like, I mean, they were hair metal for sure. They were the glam stuff, but they had a little more heart to them, I felt like. And that's evidenced by the last track, When the Children Cry, because they played that. It was a really beautiful ballad. I still think it's a great song. You get a little soft, but Vito Brato was a killer guitar player too. Great leads. And I don't know. I really dug Mike Tramp's vocals, and they were doing, they do Lonely Nights, Wait, and When the Children Cry, and then Big Game was kind of a big record for them too when they were doing Little Fighter. Little Fighter. I love that track. I mean, that was one of those videos that on MTV it would come on like at least 4 times a day. There was that, and they did that cover of the Golden Earring song,
Radar Love.
Radar Love. That's it. Yeah, which was cool. But yeah, they just they had something that was a little bit more than your average glam metal band. And this tape I probably picked up again, like Marty, like for $1 somewhere.
Yep.
Still looking for some of the other ones, and I'd go see Mike Tramp if he came through, you know. But yeah, as far as the power metal stuff, I was like kind of this and Def Leppard and, you know, even like Guns N' Roses until I saw the Metallica 1 video. Then I was kind of like over the.
I still love the first 3 Def Leppard records. Those things were High and Dry and Pyromania are 2 nostalgic albums for me.
I mean,
100%.
aside from the you know, the hits, I dug Adrenaline. You know, I thought that was a good record.
There's some good stuff on there too, and they just sound. They had no one sounded like Def Leppard. Out of all those glam bands, they kind of had their own thing, you know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
and you couldn't beat watching. What's the drummer's name? Steve. Def Leppard. Steve Allen or Rick Allen? Rick Allen. Yeah. I mean, just watching how he developed his drum style with just one arm is really kind of amazing. I mean,
pretty
he
incredible.
Had like 7 pedals set up, you know, and it was just cool, you know. But yeah, White Lion, man, they were always kind of the one glam band that stuck with me. So yeah, for sure. Sunday. I mean, you know, MTV was the only way for me to discover music in those days. I mean, we had Z-Rock, but that was a little bit before my time, and then it died by the time I learned of it. Started hearing things like Scorpions, and then ultimately I heard Holy Wars by Megadeth, and then I never looked back. But yeah.
Yep. Good pick. Alan.
Yeah. I missed White Line kind of hit big a year or 2 before I was paying a lot of attention to, you know, new music. But yeah, I'd agree with your assessment of them, Jimmy. All right, I won't continue with glam metal, but we will continue with writing from the perspective of a big veiny dick, which is not a sentence I expected to say.
That's glam enough.
We'll go with the Body Count debut with featuring the song "Evil Dick."
It's a good song.
It's a fun album, and no, it's not, you know, musical virtuoso work whatsoever here. I understand why it would not be some people's cup of tea. But, you know, this came out when I was in high school, and it's the kind of album you latch onto when you're in high school because it's got all the dirty words and all the stupid lyrics. And it is also very heavy overall. And it was, you know, kind of, you know, an interesting, you know, something a bit different. You know, this came out in early 92. You know, by that point, you know, thrash is being laid to rest. You know, thrash bands were not releasing their best albums anymore. Everybody was, you know, interested in checking out, you know, bands going in different directions. This is around the time, you know, Pantera's become a huge thing by this point. Prong is a big thing. Faith No More is popular. Folks are branching out, and this, you know, it was the perfect environment for, you know, Ice-T to get a project like this to work. It's an album actually that I've seen, you know, some folks kind of doing write-ups on it about at its time. It did, you know, work in terms of, you know, sort of raising some social awareness about things. Because, you know, there are little quips on here in between the jokey stuff and the fun stuff. There are things like, you know, a statistic and Now Sports where, you know, Ice-T, you know, just would take like 45 seconds, you know, and make a really quick point about, you know, racial problems in America at that time. And they were spot fucking on. You know, this is also around the time, you know, Rodney King, of course. So, for younger generations who don't remember that stuff, it was, you know, the kind of, you know, the George Floyd situation of the, you know, the early 90s, just to make it, you know, really short and oversimplified. All of that aside, yes, you know, you just had, you know, a lot of, you know, crazy over the top songs on here. I think personal favorite has to be KKK Bitch, where he's singing about, you know, him and his buddies sleeping with, you know, like, you know, the daughters of Klan leaders, sneaking into, like, you know, one of the Klan meetings to see what it's like. So they're, like, you know, under the sheets with their girlfriends and, like, you know, fucking them in the back row while their daddy's up there screaming about hate and stuff. It's just, it's, you know, ridiculous over the top as it sounds, and it makes for a very fun package. The album's most notorious, of course, for the last song, Cop Killer, which eventually got the album pulled off of shelves, and they had to replace it with, a little spoken blurb thing called freedom of speech. But so yeah, the original copies with Cop Killer on it are still, for people again of my generation, it's kind of one of those like, oh, do you have the original version of the Body Count album? Now, Body Count, of course, is still around. They've put out an album this year. I never found any of their later stuff interesting. I felt like all the stuff they did on that album that was, kind of, fun and in a weird way engaging, I felt like they dumped a lot of that, and it just kind of became this kind of, they got very hooked on this whole like angry slasher urban, going, just, beat up and kill people, in urban settings for all their lyrics. And just like, why of all the different directions did you just pick that? I don't know. I always felt like he could have done something more interesting than that with a lot of the music later on, but it was not meant to be. But that first album is still fun. Lineup, fun trivia fact, lineup is very cursed. At least 2 or 3 of those guys died and have been dead for a while. Yeah, they just had, really unfortunate circumstances. So most of the Body Count catalog does not feature that original lineup, with D-Rock and Moose Man and the rest of them, because they started dropping pretty early, sad to say. But yep, Body Count, always a guilty pleasure. You can always put that on, play it very loud, and just, giggle to yourself like you're, an immature 17-year-old high school kid all over again.
Mm. Yeah, but it was also kind of like the next level of like, was it Run DMC and Anthrax? Like, here's Ice-T with a metal band. And like back in the day, especially like in high school, and those, for me, like there was the metal guys and there was the rap guys, right? And it was like, well, the rap guys are doing metal now. So so now we got one up on you. What do you say to that? That was a coolness to that.
Yeah, and it was, there had been, a few, like, good point, Jimmy. You'd had a few, rock and metal bands, bring in some rap influences like Aerosmith and Anthrax. But yeah, this was kind of coming at it from the other direction. This was somebody, very much, from a rap hip hop kind of background coming into, and not just, like bringing in some folks for a song or two, but, actually, building the entire project, that way. So yeah, it was the perfect, time. The early 90s, was the perfect time for that. I don't think that project could have gotten off the ground 5 years earlier, and I don't know how much interest it would have generated 5 years later. But it's, right there in the early 90s, it was the time for something like that to get its attention, and they did. They were one of the bands on the first Lollapalooza tour, so they got, it was the first Lollapalooza, I'm pretty sure, and so they got a lot of exposure early on with it too.
Yep.
Yeah, I just saw that they did a cover of Comfortably Numb on like one of the big late night shows. So I don't know how that's going to translate. Probably not very good, but hey, here's the Ice-T for trying. I mean, at least he's got sort of a wide palette. I know he likes Megadeth and Cannibal Corpse and stuff like that. So Pink Floyd,
Yeah, I don't know how, I can't imagine how that works, but it's that's interesting.
Yeah, I couldn't.
I'm going to ponder that one while Marty shows us his next one, because that's.
Don't ponder too long.
I'm going to have to get some scratch paper to work that one out.
All right. Well, this is look out, little girl. This is an album that was big. Got it on cassette when it came out, and recently a friend gave me this. It looks like it's been partying on pretty hard. Thanks, Laverne, by the way, if you're watching. But "Stay Hungry" by Twisted Sister. So it was kind of fun cleaning this record up and spinning it again. It was like a time capsule. I haven't listened to it since it came out. What year did this come out? This came out in 84 on Atlantic Records. And this is obviously where Twisted Sister is starting to get a little bit more commercial. Well, a lot of bit more commercial. But there's no denying Dee Snider's voice is great. He's got a great, unique voice. You got Burn in Hell. That was a favorite of here. Stay Hungry, great song. We're Not Gonna Take It. Of course, it's one of those songs I never want to hear again. And same with I Wanna Rock. Cool when they came out, but I just don't care anymore. But I don't know. This is a pretty solid record. They got a lot more commercial as they went on, obviously. Dee kind of took the band over, essentially. But This is fun to put on the player every once in a while and hear every pop and scratch on here. It just it sounds like a time capsule. It's cool. I'm glad it's in the collection again. And I can't remember who I gave my tape to. I had the tape. I remember liking a lot of other bands more during the time, but it's weird how I have more of a connection now with it now than I did back then. But I did listen to it quite a bit when it came out for sure. But,
oh yeah,
yep.
Everyone did. Randy's comment here is very, very apt for a certain generation.
Metal
kids.
Health was huge too. I had that
Metal
on tape
Health,
and it's gone.
Yeah, Metal Health and Stay Hungry. Those two albums really helped make metal a household thing for the 1980s. Other bands and other albums, it probably would have got there anyway, but those two, that 1-2 punch of those two albums, that's why heavy metal is almost synonymous with 1980s pop culture. Those two albums in particular. Good call, Randy.
Yeah, they always had that glam look, but they had more of a dangerous look to them, which I always dug. I always wondered if that bone that he's got on the cover was a real bone, or because it looks like it's still got flesh on it.
It is. It's a beef femur.
A beef femur, yeah. I figured that's what it was, but it just always, I don't know. It was always effective, that cover.
Yep. Very cool. All right, Jimmy.
All right. Well, going into like the mid 90s when there was sort of a bit of a death with metal. See what I did there? Obviously, especially like a lot of thrash and death metal was kind of, the grunge movement moved in, and there was sort of a lull. And I was in my first couple of years of college, and still I even had sort of a small period of like hip hop that I was into, which was very short lived. But there was the new metal movement, which was kind of the big thing. And, I'll admit, the first Korn record, things like that, I was paying attention to. And there was a few things like I don't even have it. I would probably show it, but I don't listen to it anymore. So it can't be a guilty pleasure because I can't stand it, but like Limp Bizkit, things like that. But the one band I feel like that really kind of transcended that whole movement would be the Deftones, and with their first record, Adrenaline. And this record, obviously, they got lumped into that whole new metal thing. And I guess you could sort of say that. I feel like they kind of had a sound to their own, even though there was sort of maybe a small element. There wasn't really a whole lot of hip hop to Deftones, I really felt like. Maybe just a little bit in the way that Chino kind of sang. But to me, this record still holds up. And I hear just completely unabashed fury on this album. Very much in line with the heaviest of metal, in my opinion. The sound of the guitar tone, it's very simplistic, but the drumming, and they just wrote some really awesome songs on this. And it's just, to me, this is every bit as extreme as the extreme music, even though it was lumped in with the sort of the new metal stuff. But it's very, very angry album, and great stuff. Deftones is a band that I've still kind of paid attention to. I thought the follow up to this was really good, and then they kind of went into more of a melodic direction with the White Pony stuff and the self-titled record, which had some good stuff as well. I always found that the Deftones record since then had 2 or 3 songs that I really liked. Then they released Diamond Eyes, which I thought was an excellent record as well. I was actually going to pull that one, but I figured, the self-titled is really the one. And I think a lot of metalheads that were, listening to music at that time, maybe like my age, that didn't have anything really to latch on to. Like, this was one of those ones that okay, yeah, this is my shit right here. And I remember going to see these guys play live after the second record was released. And honestly, Chino did not sound good at all. He just sounded awful and kind of fell off of them. And later on, I go to see Alice in Chains. It was like a Alice in Chains, Mastodon, and Deftones. And I hadn't listened to Deftones in ages. They had just released Diamond Eyes, and whatever he was doing at the time that didn't sound good, boy, he really corrected, and they really just won me over again, the Deftones at that show. Bought Diamond Eyes, and it's a great record as well. Now, since then, they've released another 3 or 4 records, and they've kind of gone in a different direction that I just never really picked up on. But I check in with them every now and then, and always am pleasant to find that they have released something really good. And I'm glad that they're one of the bands. And of course, like in that new metal movement, I mean, Korn is still around, Limp Bizkit is still around, all these things. I guess there are people that are still out there listening to those bands. They haven't done a damn thing that I could give a shit about, but it was a time, and that a lot of us were, paying attention to. And short-lived as it was, it had its place, and the Deftones certainly did. And I'm glad to see that they're still going, because they were an excellent band, and this is an excellent record. Fucking completely just insane, unhinged music. So,
interesting. Yeah, I never really checked out Deftones. I was just old enough to kind of miss that. That by the time that and what's the one after that? Around the Fur.
Around the Fur, yeah.
Yeah, that was the first one I kind of noticed people listening to around me. But I was so entrenched in quote unquote real metal by then that I never. It didn't, as lame as it sounds, it didn't look particularly heavy to me with the funny just kind of cursive font and the picture, like the fisheye lens picture looking down at the lady. I was just like, people are saying this is heavy, but it doesn't look very heavy. I'm just going to go listen to Running Wild and Kirathungal instead. It just, I was just a little too, again, some of those things, like you said, yeah, for certain people, that seems to be a very big band and has held up well, to my understanding. I was just the wrong age for it to attract my attention.
Yeah, it's a different realm for sure. And again, like I said, I mean, it was definitely a certain moment in time. A lot of those bands that, I would say that if people that are still into like Korn and shit like that, I think they're kind of drenched in nostalgia. But they are, in a lot of ways, I look at Alice in Chains as like one of the bands that transcended the grunge movement in a lot of ways, that they're still putting out relevant records that are really good. I mean, you could say that. I'm sure there's a few other ones, but that's the one that comes to mind. Deftones for me is the one that transcended that new metal movement, and still they had something a little bit more to offer than that whole crowd. You know what I mean? Like they stood apart from those bands and are still worth checking out. I still feel like that record holds up. So
yeah, that's the sense I get from other folks when they talk about them too. So it always seems like they probably shouldn't be lumped in with those other bands, that they were a cut above. So yeah, interesting.
All right, Alan, you are up.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, I want to do this. I want to do a little side here. This I have a reason for this. Going with a 7-inch single by a new wave of British heavy metal band called Buzzard. And right there on their label, that's a buzzard.
A poorly drawn buzzard.
It's no sex condor, that's for sure.
No, it's not.
No, this pairs songs Catch Me Alone. The real winner here, though, is the flip side, Raven-Eyed Queen. I'm picking this for a particular reason. It's to represent a group of records. Nobody's ever heard of this Buzzard record, and that's okay. I get that. Maybe Aaron has. Aaron, if you're out there, what do you think of Buzzard? You save me, Aaron, metal theologian. You're my only hope here. But the reason I wanted to pull this one is that, first off, I've always had, obviously, a connection with a lot of new wave of British heavy metal singles, especially from these smaller bands that really only got to do one single. And it's something that most people do not give one flying crap about. 7-inch singles have never been a particularly popular format for heavy metal. A lot of these bands, again, they were one and done bands. No one's ever really dug into that much. And Buzzard had a particular sound that I do find there were some of these bands where they weren't trying to be ultra heavy. They weren't trying to be ultra rock, and they weren't trying to be, commercial friendly. The song Raven-Eyed Queen has this kind of, it's a slightly slower, somber, slightly moody atmosphere to it. It's almost like they were borrowing some atmospheric elements, not musical elements, but they were trying to borrow the atmosphere from some of the post-punk stuff like Joy Division, or maybe a little bit of Public Image Limited. But then they were putting it into a slower heavy metal context. You wouldn't call it Sabbath inspired. The music has no real nods to Black Sabbath either. But there's a lot of bands that did those kind of songs. They've always appealed to me. I like the bands that went in that direction and tried to inject a little more atmosphere rather than just doing a very straightforward, pub friendly kind of song. But yeah, it's its own little weird niche within new wave of British heavy metal that no one pays any attention to. These singles are not highly collectible. They're not ones that are revered. They're not listed up there with, the Satans and Diamond Heads and all of that stuff. They don't command the big price tags like, the Boll Weevils and the pick any one of 100 others, the Sapphires and such. But yeah, just, for all those, small bands out there that released a 7-inch single that people never really cared much about, and especially those that, wrote in this kind of slightly darker, somber, moody is always the word I use for it, kind of style, it's something I have always really liked. And I've bought more of these things than I should have over the years, but I am a sucker for bands that write in that particular style. So kudos to all those little bands that, tried a slightly different track back then and put out singles. They are not popular, but I have boxes and boxes of 7-inch singles from the US, new wave of British heavy metal, and across, European countries and elsewhere around the world too. It's a format I like, and I like having those kind of artifacts to represent all those bands that most of whom, that was kind of, the peak apex of their career in the underground. We got this one single put out. I think Buzzard did get a second, if I remember right. So not to sell Buzzard short, they circled back around for another pass. But yeah, it's just, a format and a style that I really dig that most folks aren't into.
All right. Well, I have no shame in this. I love this band. I did when they came out. Listened to the crap out of them, and I wasn't the world's biggest glam guy, but this band, they don't strike me as a traditional glam band, and that would be Rat. This is Dancing Undercover. I love this album. I love this band. I think my favorite of theirs is Invasion of Your Privacy. I love Out of the Cellar as well, but that is just, I've heard it so many times. It's kind of like, I don't know. I'm more of an Invasion guy. I love the atmosphere of it, and that atmosphere transcends to this album as well. It's just, I love Stephen Pearcy's voice. Again, it's just stupid girl having sex with girl songs, but man, Warren DeMartini's solo work, Juan Crozier, however you say his name, his backing vocals. This band was just the full package. I don't know. And this album is, even the lead-off song, Dance, I don't know. This whole album is good. It's just good. And I recently picked this up on vinyl before I kind of stopped buying. This year I got this finally. I had the tape, and I paid probably about $25 for it. But it's worth it. It's been great. It sounds great on wax. And I don't know. I love Rat. I'm sure there's people in the chat that also love Rat as well. But these guys were just so much better than Poison and all the other bands from this time. They had their shit together, and they had their own.
They were
sound.
heavier.
They're way heavier. The songs were interesting, good and catchy choruses. Mm-hmm. Everything you want. This band had. They were great, and they had a really good run too. Even some stuff on the album after this, Reach for the Sky, pretty good record. They're starting to decline a bit, but
I like the Detonator album. Even that one's a later one.
Yeah, I like the green one too. I can't remember the name of the green one. It still sounds like Rat. I don't know.
Yeah. And Rat came out of that early LA scene too. Rat in a way predates glam metal. They were knocking around very, very early on in the Los Angeles scene. So they kind of, they were almost a band. They didn't start out trying to be a glam band. They started out more as an LA metal band and got popular enough that they kind of slowly drifted in a little bit more of a Hairspray direction. But I have one fun Rat story. At some point, let's see, this would have been, I don't know, early 2000s. My roommate and I, we were having a party at our apartment. A bunch of folks were hanging around. There's this one girl who was desperate to hook up with my roommate. Cool, whatever. But, she's hanging around. We're just, playing music and stuff like that. And it was somehow, it came up. We were like, oh, well, okay, you pick some. She's like, oh, you won't have anything I know. You only listen to scary music. she's being teasing about it. She was fine. I'm like, no, name something. I might surprise you. And I'm kind of needling her a little bit because I'm like, I don't know if she can name a song that's not on the radio or not. And so she thinks about it for a minute. She's just like, well, I like Rat. And I think about it for a second. She's like, I'm pretty sure she has no idea who Rat is. She just pulled this name off of something she saw at some point in her life. But it's just like, then I've got the album for you, and dug around. And yes, I had a Rat album. And so I put Rat on the stereo. We started blasting Rat. And she's just kind of sitting there like, I have to play along because I asked for this album, but you could tell. And afterwards, once, we got her out of the place later on, my roommate just broke down laughing. He's just like, oh my God. She had no fucking clue who that band was. He's like, you just took that and you ran that into the ground on purpose, didn't you? I'm just like, yes, I did. He's like, that was beautiful. So yes, Rat, we very much kind of used it to have a little fun at Katie's expense back in the day.
Right on.
Yeah, I think my introduction to Rat was the movie Golden Child, and with Body Talk, the scene with the girl and she's beating the crap out of all the bikers.
That's on that record, on the Dancing Undercover. Yep.
Great song.
Yeah. All right, Jimmy.
Ooh. Okay. I'll go with this one. Really, probably one of the only couple records I like by this band, but Dream Theater, Images and Words.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Awake. I liked a couple. I liked Metropolis after this, but for me, this band, I like some prog stuff. I mean, I'm not really huge on prog. I guess if you want to consider Dream Theater prog, I guess they're more, they've released so many records at this point, and I've checked in here and there just to kind of get an idea, because I do appreciate these guys as musicians. I think, I've always liked Portnoy as a drummer, and not a big fan of Labrie, but he was good on this. And there was something about Dream Theater that after Derek Sherinian left the band and Jordan Rudess came in, I don't know if it was something to do with Rudess, but they just really got pretentious and wankery after that point. And this one, I really felt like they just wrote some good songs, And there was my introduction to this was the Pull Me Under video, and obviously Hair Plugs Labrie getting his street cred with the Napalm Death shirt, and it was like, oh, look at that, this is interesting. So wow, this is edgy. It's it's really showy and flashy kind of music, and dude's wearing a Napalm shirt. Cool. But honestly, this is a really really awesome record. There's a lot of Pull Me Under was that was a little bit of a it was kind of misleading in a way, because that was pretty dark, heavy song, borderline, I would say maybe the darker, heavier song that they've done. And then you get to Another Day and everything's nice and chilly ho and beautiful, but that said, I mean, I really dig every song on here, and Take the Time, Surrounded is just a beautiful song. Really, really awesome. I mean, you can't really take anything away from Petrucci or Young or these guys. I mean, they're all amazing. It's all amazing. I just wish that they could, get back to just writing, it's kind of like Maiden. Well, I want to compare it to Maiden, but it's just instead of these 20-minute epics, just write 5-minute songs and just focus on writing a good song and just leave it at that. And maybe they've done that on some of these records. I don't know. I mean, I haven't listened to every single one. I checked in on the last one, and there was some decent stuff on it. I'm kind of curious to see what they're going to sound like with Portnoy back in the band. And, the new record
two songs I've heard are good.
Are they? I haven't even listened to them yet. Yeah. But I mean,
songs are good.
And the cover has a little bit of the Images and Words kind of, theme or the concept in the artwork, which is cool. So, but I don't know. Labrie, I don't know. I struggle with him, but yeah, they were a great band at one time. And, I don't really know any real hardcore Dream Theater fans that can explain to me what is it that you love about later stuff. I tried to get into was it 6 Degrees of Turbulence or Train of Thought, and there's this one section where Labrie's doing this scat kind of thing. I was just like, what the fuck is this? But I don't know.
I think that's just a band that is so well loved, and they're kind of grandfathered in people's love and psyche, that whatever they do afterwards is given a thumbs up, because it's still done with talent and super complex, music. I think they just get a pass because people love them so much.
I think you're kind of right, Marty. I think they get they're such wonderful musicians. Well, I think they get appreciated as musicians that people to some degree may not care whether the songs are any good because they're just enjoying the individual performances. Which, if you're into that, I can see that working, but it doesn't work for me that way. I'm with you, Jimmy. Like, that album is great because it has great songs on it that include great performances. Whereas after that, they start having great performances that just don't come together into good songs a lot of the time.
Well, that's the thing, right? That's the key. I mean, that's the key. Can you write a great song and be if you're a self-described, musician or prog, whatever. I mean, but can you actually write a good song? And still, I mean, they did it here. I don't know that they ever replicated it. I mean, Awake was good. I mean, they did a couple. I remember the other one before or Metropolis was good too. That's where they really started to kind of go more into that direction, but it was still a good record. There was a lot of good songs on it. But
isn't that the Metropolis one, kind of the Queensryche concept type of thing?
Yeah.
I think that's the only one I have. It has like a face on it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's the one I have.
It's good. I mean, the Dance of Eternity, is that the one the Spirit Carries On? That's a great song. I mean, I don't know. They just, I guess you're right. I would love to hear from anybody in the chat if there's any like really hardcore Dream Theater fans to explain that to me, because I mean, the last couple I checked on, it just kind of went on and on. And it was just, man, I mean, they're playing their asses off, of course, but it's just not really, the feeling is kind of lost. So.
All right. Ellen.
Yep. Couldn't agree more, Jimmy. Yeah, let's see. I did have one more power metal one in the stack, so let's go ahead and do this one. This is a style of power metal that is not particularly popular because it's been done to death at this point. But early on, when this band pioneered it, it was kind of novel and they were good at it. Early Nightwish with Tarja Turunen singing, I can still stand behind. This is another example that this is, where they backed off the guitar too much. And I do feel this is like where a lot of bands like Windrose and stuff, some of the bands I'm a bit critical of today, I feel like they take a lot of cues from Nightwish, because this is where you start to see the guitar become very secondary.
Well, and it's more about the music taking over the songwriting, I think.
Yeah. Well, and it's all the synths are up front and the vocals are up front, and the stringed instruments are you almost feel like the stringed instruments are just there because they're supposed to be. It's like, well, we are technically a metal band, so we kind of technically have to have guys with stringed instruments, but they're not utilized to a great extent. I'm not saying they're bad performers or anything. I'm just saying they're not really often given much space to do their thing. Nevertheless, when Nightwish came out in the early 2000s, it was a different kind of sound. You'd had bands tinkering with the whole Beauty and the Beast thing, for a few years, Theater of Tragedy and stuff like that. But, this was, a band that, decided to really embrace that female operatic type of delivery and make that the centerpiece, not just the back and forth of vocalists, but just like, no, just make her the lead vocalist and let her do all this. And it worked pretty well for a while. This is the second Nightwish album, Oceanborn. From this one up until Tarja left after the Once album, they had a good run, and all those albums have good songs on them that are memorable. The problems became that, well, after Tarja left, Nightwish albums, they got spaced out farther and farther. They've had membership instability, and they've just never really written an essential album in the post-Tarja timeline. Meanwhile, according to Metal Archives, approximately 3,912 other bands have tried to do the exact same thing that Nightwish did, to very varying degrees of success. A few of them have become popular, and a few of them have, played with the variations on the theme. But man, a lot of those bands are very content just to do the exact same thing that Nightwish did, but worse, and just do it over and over and over again. And it's not a genre, again, where there's enough happening to support this many bands all copying one another.
Mhm.
Again, it's basically, get a gothy looking female vocalist, have somebody play synths behind her, and you two holding the things with strings on them. Just kind of stand over there. If you have weird or interesting looking facial hair, that's a plus. But that's their concept of a band. So there's just not enough there for all these bands to have space. There's just too many of them. They all do the same thing. They're not interesting for the most part. So it's a genre that to me feels like it's been at a dead end for ages already. And some of these bands just keep going. They have their fans, and hey, if you enjoy one of them or more than one of them, that's absolutely fine. For me personally, that genre has run its course, though. I haven't seen or heard a band come along and really do something to liven it up in a very long time. But early Nightwish, I will still stand behind. I do like the Tarja era Nightwish stuff.
Flora's voice is fantastic. She's an amazing singer.
She is a great singer, and I think her talent is being wasted in Nightwish currently. My hot take is that she ought to get into a better band. I don't think Nightwish is writing anything interesting enough for her talent level. She can do better than Nightwish. Nightwish at this point to me feels like they have an album come out this year. It is the most disappointing, least interesting album I've heard this year. I've played it a couple of times. The songs go nowhere. The musicianship is not interesting. Flo's singing is great. Nothing wrong there. But even there, it feels like she just doesn't. It's not her best performance because the material's no good. Not because she can't sing. It's just like, I don't know if anybody could sing and make those songs interesting. It's just not a good album.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she can strike out and let's get her going into like a Windrose or Twilight Force kind of project and see what's like what could like an epic LARPing parametal band do with a vocalist like her at the helm. Yeah. That could be interesting.
Yep.
Nightwish at this point, sadly, is not interesting.
Yeah, fun fact, she's married and has children with the drummer from Sabaton. A little circle back around to some earlier guilty pleasures. Yep.
Yeah, okay. There you go. Yeah. Give her a Sabaton-like project, and let's see how that goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, Nightwish at this point, it very much feels like other bands have completely bypassed them in terms of popularity and capability at this point. It's just sad, but it's just the way I feel after hearing the new one a few times this year.
Yeah.
Oh well, Marty, I will get out of parametal for my last couple, but what you got now?
Well, this is a band that I had the first 3 albums on tape when I was younger, and I never spun them as much as I spun Rat, just for the fact that I struggle with Don Dokken's voice. And as I've gotten older, I start swinging around buying these records again on vinyl. And yeah, he still has a really weak voice, but I really like the music. And when he does get into the melody lines, that weaker vocal style kind of works. So again, years of maturity and a little bit of nostalgia all worked in. Yeah, I like all the albums up through this. I even like the one after it too. I can't remember. It's Blue album with the shield looking thing on the cover. I think Tooth and Nail's probably my favorite, but this is a really good one as well. Of course, George Lynch, amazing guitar player, and it's just a really solid band. And I'm glad I've finally come around to liking them. I'm still looking for Break the Chains on vinyl. I had it and I gave it away to somebody, and I kind of wish I didn't. But yep, I found it cheap at a record show, and now I'm trying to find it online. It's way more money than I want to pay for it. So, but yep, Dokken, they're kind of a guilty pleasure these days, but it's been fun. It's been fun to track down the stuff and enjoy listening to them again. Hearing them with different ears, it's been a lot better for sure.
Not a bad band. They are one of those bands I don't need to hear the hits anymore. Some songs have just gotten overplayed for me, like Dream Warrior.
Yep.
I'm done with Dream Warrior. Let's wake up and play a different song, please.
With the Dream Warriors. Very breathy and just just a weak singer.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well said.
But it doesn't suck. It's just I want more power or grit. I don't know, one of the two. It just needs something more added to the equation. Jimmy.
All right. Something a little bit different. I'm going to bring a little Devin Townsend in here with Key. And this is the first
nothing
record.
ashamed of with Devi, heavy Devi.
Well, for sure. But I mean, if the only reason why I definitely am not ashamed. But, you know, I mean, like if you're a strapping fan or you're a really heavy fan, I mean, like this is probably going to turn you off. You know, obviously, as we know, Devin can do a lot of different kind of stuff. And Key was the first record in the Devin Townsend project that he started to do once he got sober. And as we know, like with Devi, it's like always what's going on in his life at the time. And with Key, I would say like this is Devi at his like most introspective and calm, very subdued. Definitely not metal whatsoever. There's nothing metal about this record. You know, and he did, you know, a couple of records in this vein, just like this, or Ghost. I could have picked Ghost as well, which Ghost is just like straight like flute music, pretty much, just very, very soft keyboard flute music. This has a little bit more interesting. I'd say this is kind of one of the most different things he's done in his whole discography. But again, just very, very subdued and introspective. And there's a couple songs here that get a little goofy, but you know, when Devi really gets the feels going, he gets me going for sure. Yeah, I mean, like deconstruction stuff like that's kind of more heavy part of what he was doing later on, being that there's no more strapping. I didn't really dig it, to be honest. I thought it was a little too much. Sometimes he kind of just blows his load on stuff and just puts way too much shit into it. And I mean, it is kind of nice to see him do kind of more metal kind of stuff, but personally, I'd rather hear this kind of shit with Key. And there's some really, really beautiful songs on here with Coast and Terminal. Terminal, man, that's a harsh, really, you know, hard to listen to song.
Addicted, I second that. I love Addicted. It's got Annika from
Addicted's good. Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm a huge Devi fan, and every now and then he puts something out I'm not too crazy about, but you know, the title track in this Key is just amazing. One of my favorite songs by him. You know, and I could even kind of
Ocean Machine, Epic Cloud.
Double that, yeah, Ocean Machine, you know, and ultimately, you know, the new one, Power Nerd.
Haven't heard it yet. I didn't like the single all that much.
Well, here's what I'll say about it. And I can honestly, because I thought the same thing. Was like, Power Nerd, really? That sounds stupid, you know? And if you hear the single, it's kind of like, the way he described it, it was going to be like more of a, like going back to when he was younger, like listening to older, like heavy metal records and Motorhead and things like that. And, you know, the Power Nerd song's kind of a little bit more of a Motorheadish kind of punk rock kind of song. And I'm thinking, okay, this is just going to be kind of, you know, just a one-off kind of thing. It's funny that he describes it like that, because like once you get past like all the goofiness in this album with the title track Power Nerd and the track Knuckle Dragger, which is kind of dumb. The last song, Ruby Quaker, is kind of about how much he loves coffee, and it's kind of stupid. And it turns into like a death metal track, which is kind of interesting. Get past those songs and get to the rest of this record, Marty. It's fucking great. I mean, it has just, I mean, if you're into like Ocean Machine, just regular Devi kind of stuff, there's a lot of that on here, and like it doesn't really warrant the title Power Nerd. I feel like it's kind of interesting how he said it was going to be one thing, and then it turns out to be even more introspective kind of Devin Townsend record. But I'd say if you like that stuff, Marty, get it. There's a lot of really, really good songs on here. It really grew on me. I ended up getting the vinyl for it just because, you know, I loved it so much. But Janism, Glacier, some big, big sounding songs, really, really good production. But it's not, you know, like I said, Devi can occasionally just put way too many tracks, too much going on. This has just got the perfect balance just with what he does. Just good songs, man. You know, At the end of the day, when he writes just good songs, man, that's what I want. And
that's what I want too. And he's really, and he even, I subscribe to him on YouTube. I watch his YouTube channel, and he has been in like this ever since the pandemic, this introspective. He's been up his own ass, overthinking everything. Yeah. And he said with Power Nerd, he's like, I realized I had to do something for the fans, because, you know, he's doing like the puzzle and all this stuff about, you know, doing like a ambient guitar shit, like I watched a lot of during the pandemic. I watched a lot of train video, like people on the front of a train filming, just going through the countryside. He's like, I found peace in that, so I wanted to write the soundtrack to that. I'm just like, dude, you're losing the fucking plot. There's an aspect of that, but
yeah, he gets really. I mean, he gets really kind of hard to listen to. I've heard some of that stuff too, Marty. I'm like, I just have to turn it off sometimes. I'm like, dude. Yeah. Come on, man, get your head out of your ass, dude. Like we've heard this shit before. Like we know you're going through this next phase of life, dude. We're fucking going through it too, So, but that's just kind of how Devi is. He's a little bit too honest about things, but at the end of the day, get past all that. Don't even listen to the commentary on this because he goes into all that. And, when I heard the gratitude song, it's like, is that what it's going to be? But no. This is good. It's very, very good stuff. There's a lot of good songs on here. Get past his, Devi's a head case, man. He's always just contemplating his existence as a human and how beautiful and awful
which is great. Yep, which is great. But he's a super talented guy, and I'm curious. The last album, I bought it. No, the one
Empath.
Empath. That's the last one I bought.
Too much.
It was too much. It was too much. It was too overblown, too overdone, and the songs were just. It was Devin Townsend, but it sounded like he was going through the motions, trying too hard. It just sounded like it was too much put in. It was trying too hard. It was a try hard album, but it didn't click. It had some good stuff on it, but.
It was the same for me. I mean, a lot of the records the last like 10 years, like there's some stuff I like, some stuff not so much. Empath was like deconstruction. It was just too much, too many layers, too many fucking tracks, like when he strips it down like this. And the last one I would say Lightwork as well. Marty, you might like that one too. Cause that's more in line with, his Ocean Machine kind of, just addicted kind of stuff. You like addicted,
Mike, I would agree. I think he's a genius as well. And people that are geniuses in writing music, he's got a lot to say, and I'm not always down with what he's saying. I've liked a lot of different eras of his music, but we can't like everything, especially when he's doing weird stuff.
Well, that's the thing. He says a lot, so
yeah,
you can only listen to so much.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Ellen.
I have not yet learned how to appreciate Devin Townsend's music.
If you don't like a Strapping Young Lad's City, don't even try, because that is, to me, his crowning achievement. That album is so fucking awesome. It's just,
I'm pretty sure someone taped that for me back when it came out. I am almost certain I never even got to the end of that.
It's just a raw nerve, it's an epic tantrum. It's like a temper tantrum for 35 minutes or whatever.
I would say
it's been 20 years ago. I haven't, given it a chance forever, but I'm not questioning anything about the guy. I'm just saying it's not him. It's me. I don't know how to appreciate what he does.
Yeah.
I would say try Ocean Machine or Terria. If you don't like either of those, then I wouldn't.
Addicted is fun because it's got Annika from The Gathering on it.
Yep.
It's got the song Super Crush on there. That's a great fucking song. What a great song.
Yeah. Hyperdrive.
Yep. Great.
All right, let's see. Getting close to the bottom of the stack here. I will do this one next. Going back to our earlier theme of some of the worst band names of all time. This came out probably around 1990. Band out of Florida with the name Diving for Pearls.
Oh, I'm gonna go dive for potty here in a second. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Not only is it just a bad name, it's also, it turns out, it's actually slang. It's gay slang for when one man goes down on another man. And as such, I've always wondered, just like, why in the world would they have used that for a band name? Like, late 80s, early 90s. You're not getting any, like, cool points for, being, diverse or woke or anything like that back in that era. For using a name like that, it's just such a weird name. It's like, why would you pick something? Why would you? Hey, strange name. It was always a weird name. And then when I found out, years later what it actually meant, I'm just like, now it makes even less sense. Anyway, what have we got here? This isn't really glam metal. I guess some people would kind of lump it in with that, but just everything around that time tended to get lumped in with it. Like we've talked about with Rat and White Lion, those bands weren't really quite the same thing as what glam bands were. And Diving for Pearls doesn't really fit the mold either. This is more of a light rock album. It's not a hard rock album. It's more of a light album. Yes, it's electric, instrumentation and such, but all the songs, it's very lightweight, melodic, catchy stuff. It's almost, I don't want to say it goes into like AOR territory. It's not like that. There's still a certain rock element to it, but it's very lightweight material is my point here. Taking very much like the lighter side of, White Lion or Dokken's catalog. And I guess you're in the right ballpark. Regardless, it's really, really well done. The songs are very memorable. A lot of the tracks are very much the kind of thing, again, that you would have liked to have playing, at one of those 8th grade parties where the boys are on one side of the room, the girls are on the other side of the room, and you're really trying to figure out how to go ask Debbie to dance with you, but you're too nervous about it. It's that kind of music. It's where it fits perfectly. They didn't even get 15 minutes of fame. They got like 4.5 minutes of fame. They had one video that got a little rotation on MTV.
Eric says you are not selling that thing, Alan.
I probably not. And it's a guilty pleasure. It's not something I would try to sell a lot of people on. I don't think a lot of people would dig it. But the lead track, "Gimme Your Good Lovin'," not a cover song, an original song. It had a video. It got a little rotation. I happened to see the video and I happened to like the song, and I went out and tracked down the album, and I still kind of stand by it. It's, if you want that kind of, very the lighter side of, like late 80s rock music, it's a good set of songs. It's one little trivia claim to fame. Yes, even Diving for Pearls gets one little kind of fun trivia fact here. The guitarist, I don't know which guy it is in the picture, but their guitarist was named Yul Vasquez, Y-U-L, Vasquez. He was from Cuba. And years before Diving for Pearls was ever a thing, Yul played in another Florida band called Rox, R-O-X. And Rox was kind of big on the Florida scene around the time that Rob Halford was doing a lot of partying in Florida. In between albums, he kind of camped out in Florida, and him and Yule became big buddies. There's, in Halford's autobiography, he talks about, hanging out with them a lot. He's apparently still friends with them to this day. He would get up, maybe sing a little bit with Rox, in some of their bar shows and stuff like that. Not as a member, just, hopping up there to have fun and all that. But, Rox had, one 7-inch single that came out too. Sorry, it was ROXX, 2 X's. I think I said only one before. But one of those guys there. And once again, this kind of gives you a good idea of what the Diving for Pearls music sounds like. Oddly enough, the music on this is much heavier. It's not, Metal Church or anything like that, but it's heavier sounding than what they did here under the Diving for Pearls project. But Yule was in this band too, and Halford was, was a fan and would hang out and jam with them a little bit. So even Diving for Pearls gets a fun bit of heavy metal history trivia tied in. That's all I want to say about it. I don't think this is an album many folks would get into, but again, guilty pleasure. I like it. It's been on my shelf for 35 years now, so it's not going anywhere anytime soon.
All right,
that's an interesting one.
I just find it cool that, again, even a band like that, if you dig around a little bit, they have connections to other things that you would never have thought possible. That band ties to that weird single, ties to the metal god himself.
All right. Well, I'm a child of the 70s. I was born in 1971. I grew up like most kids do, listening to what their parents listen to, going through my parents' 8 tracks. And this is one I spun a lot. And Mac Davis, I remember Mac Davis records, but Mac Davis over the years hasn't stuck. Neil Diamond, however, has stuck.
All right.
Look at that glorious hair. Oh man,
Amazing picture.
What a beautiful man right there. Beautiful man. Yeah, this is basically just a greatest hits, and this is clean the house music. Put this thing on. What do we got? Sweet Caroline, Shiloh, Holy, Brooklyn Roads, Cracklin' Rose, Play Me, Done Too Soon, Stone, Song Sung Blue, I Said. This is just a nostalgic thing with when I was a kid, not before I was even a teenager. This was me running around listening to my parents' Neil Diamond records. And it clicked and it stuck. And then we're going to get into a realm here where there's going to be some childhood stuff coming up here. So get ready. Things are about to get real posery. And Eric, you got here just in time for the crap.
Well, we're also coming up on midnight.
It's all been
so
crap.
We should probably cap this with another round or two since it's almost midnight.
Yep. All right.
But Jimmy, are you good for like 1 or 2 more rounds?
Yep. However long you guys want to go, I'm good for.
I can power slam in 2 more. I don't have many more. So
let's do 2 more rounds then.
All right. All right. There's quite a few I could pick from, but I've got to throw this one in there. As something a little bit different, but Tears for Fears, Sowing the Seeds of Love.
That album is produced so well. I like that band. My wife got me into them. They're big. They're a good band.
Yeah,
Good
really
vocals.
great. I mean, like, and honestly, we've talked about like, being young and as I've said, like watching MTV and like always waiting for a song that I like come on, and they fucking played the song to death, the Sowing the Seeds of Love. Mm-hmm. I hated it. Absolutely hated it. I don't know what it was. At some points came around to Tears for Fears. I think watching the movie Donnie Darko. There's the song in that. I forgot what song it is. It's from Songs from the Big Chair. Yeah. Anybody can remember what the name of it? It's a great song. No, it's not Shout. No. It's a much better song than Shout in Donnie Darko. But I was like, God damn, I like that song. That's Tears for Fears. Really, I used to hate them. So I was like, okay, I remember Sowing the Seeds of Love. I ended up finding this vinyl for like $10 or something like that. And it's like, let me check the record out. I remember thinking, like, I could hear the song in my head because I saw the damn video so many times. I was like, yeah, maybe that song's really not that. Head Over Heels. That's it, Wade. Yeah, Head Over Heels. Such a good song.
Something happened.
Yeah. So pick this up and realize, like this is one of those 80s bands, and this is, I think, only their 3rd record, but this doesn't really quite sound 80s at all. You could tell there was the blueprint of what they were doing, but they really kind of took their, I guess, sort of synthesizer sound and kind of expanded it into other instruments. And, there's a lot of different styles on this album. It's not just 80s music. I mean, there's blues, there's jazz, there's a lot of different stuff going on, all coalesces really nicely. And these 2 guys have great vocals, great singers, and catchy tunes, and just variation in the album. Advice for the Young at Heart. I mean, that's kind of a sad boy song, but it's I really like it. But yeah, I mean, songs from the Big Chair is really the one that they're known for. This one kind of gets talked about a lot less, but I don't know. I'd say anybody that likes them didn't or skimped out on this record, go check it out. I honestly am kind of really out of it with like their later discography. I mean, I think they're still releasing stuff at this point. I didn't even know Steven Wilson went and did like a whole remaster of their catalog, and he might have even produced like one of the last. Yeah, Woman in Chains. That's the first track on here. So good, man. It's just good music. Nowhere near in the realm of what I would normally listen to, but.
My toe dipped in the 80s, and I like it. I didn't play in Duran Duran, but my wife is in Duran Duran, and when she puts it on, I don't hate it. I love it. I think I love
Duran Duran. And I saw those guys live because I work in technology.
They're
I was
fantastic.
at a Dell conference, and Duran Duran was playing the Dell conference, and I watched them, and they were amazing.
Great band.
Absolutely great. And I'm into 80s stuff. I follow this page on Instagram called Post Punk, and it's mostly like 80s stuff, and they play like Smiths and Bauhaus and Morrissey, and then they go into a lot of other like just straight 80s stuff, and it's just like I'm always wish I had the time to really delve into all that stuff. It's just I really just need to like buckle down and really go down the rabbit hole. But anyway, yeah, I mean, great band. I saw them live not too long ago with Hall & Oates, which was great.
Was it actually Hall & Oates or was it?
No, it was Hall & Oates.
Oh, huh. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I guess this was about 7 years ago or something like that. And these guys played and they were awesome, man. Just really killer musicians, great songwriters, and can't go wrong. Tears for Fears.
All right. Scott, you're a fan of Taylor Swift. I find that a little hard to believe, but I guess it makes sense.
Swifty. All right.
Swifty.
Good old Tay-Tay.
All right, Alan.
All right. We'll go with a German metal band that never gets mentioned when folks talk about German metal. So they've always been, sort of a lower tier, but they've been around forever. They've got a huge discography, and it has its ups and downs, but I think they've done a fair number of good albums. Talking about Sinner. This is Matt Sinner's original project. Obviously, he's had more, fame and success with projects like Primal Fear, but he's always had his, namesake band going in the background. They got started very early in the 1980s. They had already put out at least 2 or 3 albums before getting signed by Noise Records as an early band on Noise. And then they churned out, a bunch of Noise albums of varying quality. Some of them were good. By the end of their Noise contract, they definitely were getting a little bit too much Bon Jovi worked into the music. They kind of rebounded in the mid-90s with a heavier sound. Got some attention for a while. I think they were on... I forget if it was, I think they were on Nuclear Blast for several albums. So yeah, got some more recognition and exposure, then kind of disappeared back, to smaller labels and hopping from label to label sometimes. But overall, they usually have a pretty good sound. I like Matt's voice. He's got, a good sort of tough sound. I like his guitar work and his guitar sound. Again, he usually plays a pretty good, thick, heavy tone. In recent years, like this is just one of the more recent albums. This one's Crash and Burn. I took it out of the CD case just because the CD case has a million stickers on it. You can barely see the cover. He's definitely channeled more and more of his love of things like Thin Lizzy on these albums. There's usually at least 1 or 2 songs that you hear it, and if you didn't know better, you'd assume he was covering like some Thin Lizzy B-side. And he has covered at least 1 or 2 Thin Lizzy songs with Sinner. He did a great cover of Sun Goes Down on I think that was on the Nature of Evil album from around 97, 98 or so. So yeah, Sinner, I think the big issue with Sinner in terms of why they don't get a lot of attention, among German metal bands, Sinner is the one that definitely leans more in the rock and roll direction. You had Halloween, leaned more in the speed metal direction. Rage early on, had it went very speedy. Running Wild had the big galloping melodies and all this kind of stuff. Creator and the thrash bands went in that direction. And Sinner's kind of like, we look good with a big poofed up hair. Maybe we'll lean in that direction more. And so, yeah, I don't think it's something that appeals to as big a chunk of the metal community. Most folks are going to want, the heavier, faster bands for sure. And Sinner didn't do as much of that. But they're good at what they do. Again, your mileage will vary from album to album, though. You do hit some runs of albums where they really were trying a little too hard, to be a, quote unquote, successful sounding hard rock band. So you got to pick and choose, but there are a lot of good albums in the Sinner catalog. Wish they got a bit more attention. I always felt like they shouldn't be looked down upon in any way. They just have a slightly different sound than a lot of their German counterparts. But yeah, Sinner is a guilty pleasure for me. I own too many Sinner albums, and I probably don't even have half their catalog. It is a huge catalog at this point. We're talking over 20 albums that Matt's put out under the Sinner name. So yeah, if you don't mind some German metal that is going to lean more towards the rock side of things, yeah, as long as you're careful about which album you get, yeah, I think folks would enjoy Sinner if they listened to the right albums and gave them a chance.
All right. Well, we're still in the 70s here for me. And this was another big band for me in the early years. Man, you cannot deny how perfect the vocal harmonies are of these two women. Holy shit. They just linked up. Absolutely killer. And somehow I got the band to agree to do a cover of SOS, The Glorious Dead. Yeah, it's going to come out eventually. It turned out surprisingly good. You don't think it would, but I don't know, man. It turned out pretty good. But I just love a lot of this stuff. I mean, they didn't always put out great songs. Which ones do we have here? Just ABBA, the self-titled, and ABBA, the album. I used to have ABBA Gold growing up and just wore the grooves off that thing on my turntable. That was before the next band I'm going to show entered my hemisphere. But going back on this stuff now, it's just so much fun to listen to this shit. They're fun road trip, sing along with this stuff. I just have always been absolutely thrilled with how their albums sound and their melodic choices. I mean, is ABBA the heart and soul of Swedish Megadeth? Could it be? Could it be?
Definitely.
Could it be? And then of course this band entered my world, and this is the band that really put music on the map for me. I mean, this is the original album. You can tell the ring where I've had this since I bought this new from Camelot back in the day. And yeah, I guess this would be a guilty pleasure. I love and hate this band. I do. But the old stuff I love, but I can also say that band albums that people don't like from this band, like this Carnival of Souls, the Final Sessions, this is them trying to be grunge. I love this record. I like Gene and Paul's voice. There's songs about suicide on here and hate, and it's like complete upside down world from what Kiss normally sings about. The band hates this record. A lot of fans hate this record. I always like this record. I don't know. This is the last one I've given a shit about. After this, they reunited with Ace and Peter, put out that shitty Carnival of Souls album. And I don't know. There's a soft spot in my heart. I'm really tired of old Kiss records because I've heard them all so many times. But they still make their way onto my player, and I still love them. Do I have enough to... We're doing one more round after this?
You get one more pass after this.
All right, I'll do these two next. And again, before I got into Kiss, my dad's record collection, he was a big outlaw country guy, a big country guy. So Waylon is one that still I have a lot of love for. So Ruby Don't Take Your Love to Town by Waylon Jennings. Gentle on My Mind, obviously, is the banger on here. Glenn Campbell, say what you want. Look at that stupid haircut. Holy shit. That is it's like a hair helmet, like the sliding off his head. But the Wichita Lineman, is that on this one? It is. Third track. If you don't listen to that song, get a little teared up. You have no soul. But this guy, he was like one of the big studio. I can't remember the studio musicians guild he was in, but he was in a amazing guitar player. This guy is just a shredder, an absolute shredder. But he has a great, unique voice. And again, Wichita Lineman, Galveston. Yeah, this is stuff from my childhood. Consider me soulless. Oh, come on, Eric. And go ahead.
I'm pretty sure that picture of Glenn is why for at least 5 years I was convinced Glenn Campbell was a woman.
Yeah, well.
Based on that haircut alone. It was just like, there's no way that's a man with that haircut.
Yep.
I was very confused about, Glenn Campbell as a kid. I was like, wait, it's a dude? Show me that picture again. No, that can't be right.
Yeah, Roy Clark and Glenn Campbell. There's videos of them guys playing together. And another guy, Jerry Reed. Remember from Smokey and the Bandit, the truck driver? That guy was a motherfucker on guitar, an absolute shredder. The old guard, man. They could fucking play. Anyway, Jimmy.
All right. Well, I think this is probably a good one for me to
Wrecking
end
Crew.
on.
Thank you, Slang. Thank you, Slang King. He was in the Wrecking Crew. That's the one.
Cool. All right. Yeah, this will be probably a good one to end on. But Cat Stevens, T for the Tillerman. And this is really just stripping everything down to just singer-songwriter, folk music, and very, very meaningful, just emotional. In fact, I might even listen to this before I go to bed tonight because it's been a little while. But I guess, yeah, man, when did this come out? 70s? I mean, this was before he changed his name. And I know it's just beautiful, just awesome. This is like, I don't know, man. It's the best music about just life, just growing up and getting older and getting opportunities, bad and good, and just I even get a little choked up just like talking about this album because it's just like brings you back to being a kid in a lot of ways. And it's just very much like music for to lull you to sleep in a way, to just kind of very introspective, very I feel like it was sort of ahead of its time in a lot of ways. And I admit I'm not really very familiar with his like entire discography, but this would be like the one that my brother introduced me to like so long ago. And I remember him just telling me like, because I try to get him into, some metal stuff, or I got him into a lot of punk rock that he really liked, like when we were younger. And he never really like was the one that got me into anything. And he was like, man, I need you to live this, to listen to this record. I mean, this record speaks to me, and I was like, wow, that's kind of big coming from him, because it just had not really gotten a lot of, really good, ever real recommendations that he felt like he had to offer, you know what I mean? And this was like the one. Yeah, man. Father and Son and Wild World. I mean, pretty much every song on this, like, especially Father and Son. That one is just unbelievable. But T for the Tillerman, Wild World, Miles from Nowhere, and On the Road to Find Out is a really good one too. But it's just a beautiful record, man. And it's one that I don't listen to often enough. I need to kind of revisit, but completely whole nother world from where I usually go to. So, but yeah, Cat Stevens. And real quick, I'll just say this one too, just because like somewhat in the same realm, because I usually don't really go for stuff like this, but Blaze Foley's Clay Pigeons. And this was one that Austin kind of turned me on to. I don't know Austin, but he's talked a lot about Blaze Foley. And,
yeah.
And he was, when we went to Fire in the Mountains, Austin was doing a acoustic set around the fire, and he did a couple of Blaze Foley songs that were really, really great from Clay Pigeons. And it was like perfect for him because he just did it perfectly with his violinist. And but it's, this kind of stuff I'm not too versed in, but it's a really, really awesome record. Really good lyrics and just singer-songwriter stuff, So
right on. Yep, good stuff. All right, Alan.
Okay, I haven't ventured too far out of metal tonight very often, but I'll end on one that goes outside of it. This is a big name artist, so I mean, there's not like it's a
Taylor Swift. We
knew
it. We knew it.
Scott, I'm the one who picked it first, apparently. But no, I put it under guilty pleasure because I've noticed that not a particularly popular artist among metal fans, or many metal fans. There are some who do, but there's also a lot of metal fans when I bring this one up, just kind of like, ugh, really? It's like, yeah. It's Springsteen. Obviously a huge artist. I've liked a lot of his 80s stuff for a long time. Nebraska, Born in the USA, etc. Didn't really get into his 70s albums though until just in the past several years. I had heard bits and pieces of them here and there, but I had never had them click. And at some point, they finally did. Pushback against Springsteen, is one of those things, again, kind of like, Jimmy was asking her, like, asking like Dream Theater fans to explain why they don't like, what's the big deal with Dream Theater? Why do they latch onto it? I'm always kind of interested, why people sometimes, the comments about why they push back is that somehow they feel like Springsteen is somehow too schmaltzy or something, and I just don't really get that. Especially with early stuff up through Born to Run being the best example. He's singing about a very romanticized, idealized version of Americana. And a few years after that, with the next album, Darkness, at the Edge of Town, he's turning that on its head and really singing about a much grimmer, more dire, and in many ways much more realistic version of what America is. And it makes just for very interesting comparisons that he could he understood sort of the very romantic, idealized American dream kind of thing, and could put that into musical form really well. But he also he grew up and understood that shit don't really work that way either for a lot of people, and he could embody that in song really, really well also. He had ups and downs later in his career. Some albums, I don't know his whole catalog, especially when you get up into the 90s and stuff. But even some of the albums I've heard from there, they're not as bad as their reputation that precedes them. And just in terms of people sometimes react very badly to it, but I don't ever necessarily grok why they. If you just don't like it, you don't like it. That's okay. You don't have to justify it to me. But people just seem to come up with very odd things like, it's some kind of, bullshit rock star thing. It's just like, there's a lot more to the music than just some bullshit rock star or, heroism type stuff. I don't know if they've just, made the, simple mistake of hearing, Born in the USA played at too many random political rallies and missed the fact that the song's actually about, disillusionment, that, Vietnam veterans have coming back to the States after the war. Again, he could write very poppy music, but a lot of the songs had a lot more going on if you paid attention to them, which is what has really drawn me more and more into his catalog over time as well. There's kind of like what Jimmy was saying with Cat Stevens. I don't know Cat Stevens music, but a lot of Springsteen albums, this era up into the river and stuff, a lot of it is songs about growing up and learning some of life's hard lessons and learning them the hard way. And it's something that I think a lot of people can relate to, and it's probably a big part of why he was very successful over time. So, I will end with that one. I really enjoy the man's catalog, at least the big chunks of it I've checked out, and I'll probably eventually check out the others sooner or later. So that's what I'll end on, and I'll catch up on some chat comments as we wrap things up with Marty's last pick.
Cool.
All right. Well, I have a four banger here, but we're gonna start with these two. I've been in a big last week and the week before. These two albums were on my Spotify in the shop as I worked. It's the Stevie Nicks, Lindsey Buckingham addition to this band. I could care less about the proggy jam band stuff of their early days. I just don't care. And after this, I started digging into Tusk and stuff, and this is the sweet spot for me. The 70s era. Rhiannon, of course. I mean, how can you not like that song? How can you not like that song? The Chain. I mean, Rumors. There's a couple duds on the album, but man, it's kind of banger after banger. Really. The Chain, Go Your Own Way, Don't Stop. I mean, that was used for the political crap. I don't know. I just love it. I love this stuff. I love this era. I love Stevie Nicks' voice. And it clicks. And this album, oh my God, this album, it was just a matter of time. Sorry, Eric. It's about to get worse here for you. My first job away from my family's business was Kmart. And it was a new Kmart, so I was in there helping them set up. I was just a kid. I was crushing boxes in the compactor. I was helping them, set up counters and stuff. And one of the managers that was in charge of setting the store up played this album every day, all day. And I just absolutely hated it. And that would be Steely Dan's Asia. But something weird happened. The last couple years, I acquired this album and I love it. I can't stop listening to it when I'm in the mood for it. Deacon Blues, Peg, I got the news. Black Cow. I'm sorry. Something about this, and I don't own any other Steely Dan stuff, and this is this is a guilty pleasure rarity for me in my collection, but I put it on, it just hits that spot, and I guess I was paying a little bit more attention. I mean, back when I was hearing this every day, I was wanting to listen to Creator and Voivod, and that was it. And you start throwing this on at me every day, I'm like, God, it's like being in hell, but Steely Dan's Asia has aged very well for me. In fact, I love it now. And this band right here, this is probably a guilty pleasure, but I love early U2, especially this album, The Unforgettable Fire. This album is an atmospheric, there's a lot of sad shit on here. I like Bono's voice on it. I like the songwriting. I like the way the band sounds. I mean, I think the album cover sums up the way the album sounds, you know. I like this band a lot through Joshua Tree, and after that, I'm pretty hit or miss. They got humongous, and a couple songs on Rattle and Hum. I don't mind some of Octung Baby, and after that, I just kind of stopped caring. But I don't know. This album is a real sweet spot. Like I said, it's very atmospheric. There's a lot of sadness to it, and I like War. I like Boy. All those early albums, it's great, and they're like one of the only bands that's kept the same lineup forever. So I mean, kudos to them. That's hard. It's hard to do, and to continue to keep putting out albums and in a lot of ways getting better as they went. Of course, they plateaued, and you kind of start rehashing a formula, but it's a formula that's pretty unique and still works. But yeah, October, another great album, and some of the live stuff from back in the day. I just like this band. I like this band during that time. I don't listen to them often, but when I do, it's what I want to listen to, so.
I very briefly dated a girl in college who was an obsessive U2 fan. I mean, yeah. We're talking almost, go up 1 or 2 levels and you're at stalker level U2 fan.
My buddy Jason too. That's where I got U2 from. That's all he listened to. He loved them. That and The Cure, which is why I also like The Cure. I'm a Cure fan because of him. All of our friends, we're like sponges, yeah. We found our way in metal, but there's also all the stuff that our friends seeded us with, over the years.
Oh, I thought you meant we're moist and covered with little bits of dried spaghetti.
We're like a chia pet. But yeah, Joy Division, they're not a guilty. I was going to bring Joy Division, but I told myself that's not a guilty pleasure. I love Joy Division.
Joy Division is very accepted in metal circles. I mean, I guess some folks have said a few things we've picked aren't, and I get that. For some of these, I think it's more from just the context of as heavy metal fans and stuff. Some of these would be looked at kind of strange by people that are just like, that's not heavy metal. What the hell? Kind of.
And Mike, early REM, when they were just an awkward college band, I liked that shit too. When they started getting huge, they lost me big time. It was the early REM stuff I really like.
Those shiny happy people can go straight to hell.
Oh, I agree. They can go to hell and die and burn. Yep.
B-52s were killer too. Early
B-52s.
Dude, no, come on. Early B-52s.
Rock Lobster, come on, man.
Come on, man. It's good. Good stuff. Well, that one sucks, but there's better stuff than that.
That dude's voice is one of the most irritating voices. Well, hey, now it's time to do this. He talks like a clown.
Like Jello Biafra Biafra kind of modeled his style after him. Actually,
they were unique, man. They had, I don't know, I won't try to get this shit.
It took 3 hours and 20 minutes, but we finally found our breaking point.
That's where we finally got to
That's where we end. B-52s.
Yeah. Oh, everything's like, oh, that's cool. Oh, I don't know that one. Okay, we agree to disagree. B-52s. Fuck that. Oh God.
Oh well, dude, go back to the early stuff.
Hey everybody, I'm singing a song.
Yeah,
it's Jello Biafra.
Just think
Jello Biafra, man. Now.
Very much Biafra. Yeah.
Yep.
I think he got a lot from that.
Well, shit, we made it through this, and I promise next week we'll return to our regularly scheduled metal programming. Everybody.
Calm.
I'm
blue
going to be
ocean.
like the most unpopular guest you guys have ever had in bringing this.
Calm blue ocean.
The people love you, man. They love you.
Oh
We
no,
love
it's
you.
great having you on, Jimmy. You picked lots of cool stuff. It was a fun topic. Like I said, we had the idea kind of come up once or twice, but it never followed through on it. So yeah, as soon as you had it on your list, Mari's like, yeah, this one's interesting. She's like, yeah, let's run with it.
Gotta always try and bring something fresh to the HM.
Yep, and we appreciate it.
Indeed.
But
indeed.
Jimmy, you rule as always, and Future Ruins rules. People, please go click the link in the description and go subscribe to Future Ruins. It's kind of a hiking channel, but he does put music in with it. He does an amazing, very cinematic looking. There's a couple a couple episodes back where you're climbing that mountain. I have a heights thing, and it was freaking me out. I'm like, I don't know if I can watch this one because it's shot so well. It felt like I was right there with you. I'm like, nope. You do the pan down. I'm like, nope. It felt like I was right there on the ledge wanting to puke. It was terrible.
I'm glad, man. I mean,
But
that's
killer.
kind of the idea.
Yeah.
I try to it's like bring you along with the adventure kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the idea. And yeah, man. I mean, I appreciate the support, guys. I mean, that means a lot. Hiking's not really, you don't have to be into hiking to enjoy the videos. If you like outdoors, see cool places you've never seen, I mean, maybe you find some interest in it, and that's kind of the whole gig, man. It's just kind of just end your evening and just what, you can, after you've watched the news or whatever it is and you're pissed off at the world, you can just watch a little bit of nature and just kind of drown into it before you go to sleep kind of stuff.
Yep.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Waiting for you and Les Stroud to go looking for Bigfoot. I know he's doing a GoFundMe right now for his next Bigfoot movie.
Yeah, I wonder what that's going to be. I'm curious to see. Yeah, curious to see what he's going to do.
The GoFundMe, the Kickstarter, you can pay enough to have him actually go on a Bigfoot campaign with him.
Like I should probably sign up for that. Maybe I can get him to do a video with me or something. That would be kind of cool. But yeah.
Mike, this isn't going to happen in the future, much to everyone's chagrin that has to do the homework. But it'll be a fun one because Rage rules. I'm a big fan, and we'll see.
Gotta give us a couple of months to get through the first half of their catalog.
And Jurgen was saying he was going to try to reach out to PV and actually have PV be on with us when we do it. So that might be awkward, but cool. We'll see what happens. I highly doubt it'll happen, but we shall see. Lots of good stuff coming up on Heavy Metallurgy. We got some cool guests coming for you all, and next week's show notes. Sunday, I'm shooting a collaborative video with S. Craig Zoller and Melanie Loves Death Metal. We're going to be talking at length about the new Nile album, so that's going to be happening. I've got a new review coming up. I need to get that sorted out this weekend as well. And next Wednesday, the Album Club, we're discussing a self-titled album by a band called Howling Sycamore, which is Jason McMaster from Dangerous Toys and Watchtower's band. And it's actually, I'm surprised, it's pretty good. I'm liking it. Other than the saxophone bullshit in it. But other than that, I'm liking it. Next Friday, we don't know yet. But, next Friday, is that the end of year?
Nope. 2 weeks from now, we'll do our big end of year show with everybody. Next Friday is still open because we've been talking to some folks about that one, but no one's committed yet.
Yep. We'll figure it out. We'll get it all ironed out, and we'll see you back next week.
Yep.
Go check out Future Ruins. Go check out Let's Talk Metal. What you got coming up Tuesday?
I think I have VCLT thank yous that are overdue, so I'll probably take a week or two to catch up on showing some cool stuff that folks have sent and commenting on that for a couple of weeks here.
See right there, Devin, like Chemist, the Album Club works. People, it works. Go
Chemist
check us out.
rules. No. If I could plug real quick, I'm going to do a
Absolutely.
year end on my channel as well. The guys that I only do a few streams a year, but my group is they're all hiker guys, hiker metal guys as well. All mostly they're all like black metal guys, really, really diverse tastes. So our year end list will be on my channel, like probably the first week of the new year. But
fun.
two of the guys are black metal guys. One guy's like a death and thrash guy. One guy's like a folk and neo folk, and I'm like kind of all around. So it'll be kind of a diverse list, I'm sure. So if you guys have a chance, check it out.
Awesome. So lots of good stuff coming up. We're at the end of the year. Things are snowy. You're not going out much. Sit your ass down and turn on YouTube and watch some good stuff. So until next time, thank you, everyone. Have a great night. Have a great weekend.
Cheers, guys.
And we'll see you soon.